Good afternoon. This is the Board of Appeals Town of Hempstead, January 4th, 2 o'clock meeting. Do you have any remarks?
The notice was not been here before. The protocol that we've adopted over the years is the applicant will make his or her case. Then if there are any objections, they will be given an opportunity to object, and then we will close with the applicant in final remarks.
We have a few cases for adjournment for the afternoon calendar. First, we have case 2323 Elmont, Sophia Road, Walton. Special exception to install accessory structure, gazebo higher and larger than permitted and exceeds also known as 31 Nassau Street.
Anyone here?
Sophia Road, Walton, 31 Nassau Street.
We need to adjourn this because somehow the notice didn't go on as planned or something. I'm sorry.
The reason for the adjournment is that the notice did not go out in time.
Yes.
Effective notice.
Yes.
How much time do you think?
Is the adjournment, is the notice ready enough that what's the date?
Starts tomorrow.
So from tomorrow, that was the 5th. Oh, yes, it is the 5th to the 12th, I think you said?
Yeah.
So if we put you on for the next available date, which is February 1st, you'd have to be able to get the new notice out between the 5th and the 12th. Do you have it ready enough that you can do that?
February 1st.
Morning. I think that's okay. I don't know what that is.
9:30.
So you'll come back on February 1st at 9:30. You won't get any additional notices, but you do need to get the notices out for other folks. So to the extent if you need any assistance, you can go to the zoning board. Otherwise, you just make sure you hit that window so you don't have to adjourn.
Okay.
These guys know everything. You know.
Okay. Should I just get it?
So
Okay, so you're going to do the one that I know. Okay.
Okay, so just call that.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Any other requests for adjournment?
We have case 2523 Merrick Avenue Hospitality LLC, doing business as being Post Up. waive off-street parking, also known as 1618 Merrick Avenue.
Good afternoon. Laura Schaefer of Walsh Marcus McDougall and DeBellis for the applicant, 229 7th Street, Suite 200, Garden City, New York, 11530. I'm also seeking adjournment as a result of the notice not being sent out in time, and February 1st we work on the first week.
9:30.
There is fine.
And you know the mail window, right? We just said
It's all set, yeah.
You're all set.
Thank you.
There's one more, case 3323 Seaford, Anthony House.
that's a lot.
Variances height, front yard setback, constructed two-story addition, second-story addition, covered by patio and vestibule wall attached to dwelling, known as 2322. You have a note on this one. Both the applicant and the agent have COVID, so they're not zeroing into the
Oh, mass. So the request is that you.
They're requesting adjournment, which I think they.
Same time.
Same.
All right, no further notice, there's no one here in opposition, interested, so.
I have no other applications for adjournment. Anybody here? Anybody else? First case. First case is 2123 Elma, Equinox Venture 2 LLC. Variance rear yard, construct one-story retail building. Variance off-street parking and parking in the front yard setback on 237th Street, aka 237-02 Linden Boulevard. You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? State your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Lee Vanessa for Chili D. Tirana, 333 Pearl Overton Boulevard, Uniondale, New York. Here on behalf of applicant Equinox Ventures LLC. The applicant is the owner of the premises situated on the southeast corner of Linden Boulevard and 237th Street in Vermont. And the proposal is to redevelop that site. Seated to my right is Wayne Muller, of Engineering. Mr. Muller is a transportation engineer who has been recognized by the board on many occasions as a traffic expert, able to give opinion testimony in connection with traffic and parking. I would ask that he be permitted to do so in this case. The property in question, as noted, is on the southeast corner of Linden Boulevard and 237th Street. It's the site of a former gasoline service station and repair shop, but that has been demolished for quite some time. The property has basically been vacant and underutilized since around the early 2000s. My client and his father, the two principals of Equinox Ventures, were interested in the property about 2 years ago. They started doing their due diligence. One of the things that they did was a phase 1 environmental review. They found no evidence of contamination on the property based upon the phase 1, so they decided to move forward with the acquisition of the property. They acquired the property about a year ago, and they put together this project, which proposes a 3,959 square foot small retail development for the property. The site would have 10 parking spaces, accessed strictly from Linden Boulevard. As presently developed, there are 2 curb cuts on the property. This will do away with the curb cut closest to Linden Boulevard and maintain the one further away. Closest to the intersection of 237th Street on Linden, and it would simply be accessed by the curb cut to the east side of the property on Linden Boulevard. No access to the curb to 237th Street. The relief required is both pertaining to parking. One is entirely de minimis. It's parking in the front yard setback along 237th Street. Space number 1 is shown on the site plan. It's partially, very small corner of that parking space is actually within the front yard setback on 237th Street.
Very small.
Yeah, very small parking. The other is a parking variance, and it is a parking variance of 50%. The site has developed with retail uses, requires 20 parking spaces, and they're proposing 10 parking spaces. That said, if you're familiar with this area, if you've been around this area, there's a significant amount of on-street parking that is utilized directly across the street. There's a number of strip centers that provide no parking whatsoever. Everything works in the area in that regard. But that said, this site will provide 10 parking spaces on site to accommodate its parking needs. And based upon the analysis that Mr. Muller has done, we believe that will adequately address the requirements of the site.
So your client provides 10,
Required 20.
and then it
Requires 20 is providing 10, which again is a 50% variance, but it's far more parking than almost any other property in the area that the president provides.
If you know, in 2005, the board granted a variance on off-street parking for the same parcel. Do you know what those numbers were at that point?
I do not have those records.
So you don't know, you probably already have a parking variance at some level, you may be asking for one spot.
That parking variance may have applied to, at that time, I believe the gasoline service station had been demolished, and some other project was proposed. I did not come across anything in my review of the records. What you're telling me is news to me.
The caption in 2004, variance on off-street parking, permission to park in front yard setback on 237th Street for proposed retail building.
Is that the only thing on?
Yeah, and then
No, but I mean, that may just be approving that one spot, right? I don't know if there's a, because like, if you, if there was
May I approach?
of course.
because you had like a, you know, that had a 3-spot variance, you're only asking for 7 now, right?
Mr. Chairman, based on Mr. Pellegrini's indication, and having checked the cards at the building zone, or rather the BZA office, and not having come across this comes as news to me. If I may, I'd like to ask that we hold this case to second call so that I can go down to the BZA office, take a look and get more details on the variance that was issued for this property. As Mrs. D'Amato indicates, we may be asking for less than the 10 space variance that we're asking for. So, if I may, I'll hold this over and we'll come back. Thank you. But I'm on the very next case, so I'll do it right after the next.
What about Mr. Muller? Can he stay or go?
Sorry, Mr. Muller.
Okay. Next we have case 2223 Elba, Blue Sun Realty Incorporated. Variance of off-street parking, construct a 2-story mixed-use building for retail and apartments, also known as 443 Hempstead Turnpike. Mr. Vanessa, you're still sworn in previously.
Thank you.
Just your name and address.
William Vanessa, Chili D. Durana, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York. Here on behalf of the applicant, Blue Sun Realty, to take action with the premises. Situated on the south side of Hempstead Turnpike in Elmont. This application is an application for a rehearing. It's to reopen the approval that was issued by the board in 2016 under BZA case numbers 163 and 164. And I would ask that the evidence and record created at that hearing be incorporated into this proceeding.
So moved.
Thank you. At that time, my client came before the board and presented a request for various reliefs in order to redevelop the premises in a fashion that would be mostly compliant with the new Elwood overlay district, but it did need some variances, and the board granted those variances. The proposed building was for a laundromat and some retail space in addition to that, and then on the second floor and in the rear of the building on the first floor, there would be apartments. And we had testimony from a real estate expert that said that it would not be detrimental to the community. We had testimony from a traffic expert indicating that it would work. And it's important to know that the access to the property, because of the requirement of the Elwood overlay district, they wanted the buildings moved to the front and basically adjacent to Hempstead Turnpike. The building was going to run the full width of the property along Hempstead Turnpike. And as such, the access to the property was going to be via the town parking lot, which is situated to the east and south of the property, for access for the tenants and for access by the patrons and employees of the spaces, the commercial spaces.
How many apartments were approved?
Eight apartments were approved. It's still 8 apartments. However, the building has shrunk, and that's because after the approvals were issued, my client went to get financing, and he was being held up by Crown Castle, the owner of a cellular tower that's situated in the rear of the property that is leased to Crown Castle, and they would not agree to access to the cellular tower through the town's municipal lot. They were concerned that at some point in time the town could terminate the municipal lot, or could simply decide not to allow Crown Castle access. We had multiple communications with them, with the town, assuring them that was the likelihood of that was basically nil. But nonetheless, they would not agree to it, so consequently, they would not sign off on financing from the client. My client did not get financing. So, yes.
Go ahead.
About a year ago, I sent a letter to this board submitting the current plan, which is a slight modification to the prior plan. It reduces the width of the building and thus reduces some of the parking requirement for the building in order to provide a curb cut, actually maintain a curb cut, but to provide a curb cut on Hempstead Turnpike strictly for the easement that Crown Castle needs to get to the back of the property for the cell tower. And if you notice, there are actually bollards that are removable but nonetheless proposed for that driveway, so that it'll only be used by Crown Castle. The rest of the site will still operate as the board approved, with the access for the patrons, the employees, and the tenants through the municipal parking lot, as we had received the agreement and approval for from the town. So that change reduced the building. Our parking requirement was reduced, but we also had to lose 2 parking spaces. And because our prior parking variance was a 29-space parking variance, we now have a 30-space parking variance. And the one greater parking space variance is why we're here today. Other than that, the plan is still fully compliant with all of the other zoning relief that the board granted. It will be developed in that fashion. But in this way, we can go back to Crown Castle and say, you now have your straight-on easement directly from Hempstead Turnpike, getting you to your cell tower, and it won't be interfered with by the tenants, employees, and patrons of the rest of the building, because those people will access the property via the parking lot.
So this is a case about one parking spot.
Exactly. And that's the case in its entirety.
Mr. Vanessa?
Yes, sir.
In, similar to the last one, in June 29, 2016, or thereabouts, it's been adjourned. The use variance for 2 residential units on first floor for proposed building, none permitted on ground/first floor. A use variance exceeds population density. There's 6 residential units at second floor proposed building, 3 permitted on the second floor variance in off-street parking.
Yes.
How does that compare to this before us? It's column A and column B.
It's the same in that the Elmont overlay district prohibited apartments on the first floor. So the fact that we have apartments in the rear of the building on the first floor, we needed the use variance for that, which was granted. It also imposed a total, what was it? What did you say? It was a lot, not a lot of area, it was building. Was it FAR? Population density, I'm sorry. It slightly exceeded the population density, so we needed the variance for that. And the fact that a laundromat was not a permitted use, we needed the relief for that as well. So all of that was granted. All of that is still proposed and on the table and will be developed in the same fashion. Same number of apartments, same laundromat use, but less tenant space, thus the reduction in the parking requirement.
But the increase in the parking variance.
Yes, one space.
Changed 2
Because we
variables
lost-
and netted out 1 spot.
Right, exactly. We reduced the parking requirement by 1, but reduced the number of parking spaces by 2.
So net negative.
That's my recommendation. The principal is here if the board has any questions. Also, Mr. Rossi from the architects and expediter's office is here. He's been working on this since day 1. He can answer any design questions.
So all 3 of you are on, and we don't have anyone else.
No, that's it.
No further questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the hearing be closed and matter be placed on the decision calendar. Mr. Vanessa, Mr. Muller, Mr. Revolsi, you all receive a copy of the board's decision by mail once it's ready. Thank you. Happy New Year. Aye.
Next, we have case 2423, Levittown, Virgin Marlene. Variances of lot area occupied, front yard average setback, side yards aggregated construction addition, over open porch, and convert garage to living space, all attached as well, known as 32 Tower Lane. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, please take a seat, state your name and address for the record.
General Cosolino, 2175, New Park Avenue, New Park, New York, 11759. Sure.
Just trying to find a sign sheet. Did you sign your own, please? You signed Stephanie, do you have the yellow copy of the sign sheet?
No.
I don't have anything.
Oh, you don't? You don't get
No,
it?
No.
Email.
We emailed it to her.
It's a case. Let's get this one. 2423. Sorry.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, General Cosolino for the homeowner, Richard Marlene, residing at 32 Tower Lane, Levittown, also known as Section 51, Block 178, Lot 11, located in FDR zone. They're requesting relief from the board to convert the existing garage to living space and to build a one-story front addition with a covered porch. The proposed garage conversion and additions require variances for lot coverage, requesting 30.8% from 30%, the difference of 0.8%. Permission to reduce aggregate side yards from 15 feet to 12.38 feet, the difference of 2.62 feet. Variance for front yard setback, requesting permission to build at 22.5 feet, the front yard average of 28.79 feet, difference of 6.29 feet. The additions comply with all other zoning requirements, will not affect any of the adjacent properties, and will fit in with the character and nature of the neighborhood. That's my case.
Just give me a second, I was slowly handing out the paper, my bad. So your lot of your occupied proposed is literally 0.8% above allowable? Okay. 10 feet on the front yard, right? Just to the porch?
Yes.
Unchanged on the side yard aggregate? 1238, unchanged?
Correct.
Pergola, is that pergola still there?
Pergola is to be removed.
So it's still there?
I believe so, yes.
Planning to remove it as part of this application?
Correct. Correct.
Because if they don't get approved, they're going to remove their pergola.
Yeah, lot coverage.
Going to keep the pergola, we can't have the rest of it, right?
Correct.
Do I have any other questions? So we move this to the board.
I move that the hearing is open and be placed on the decision calendar. Mr. Casalino, you'll be notified by mail of the board's decision once it's ready.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Second.
Aye. Aye.
Next we have cases 26, 23, 27, 23, Franklin Square, Mike and Casey.
You don't get it back.
Variances, front yard average setback, side yards aggregate, construction, second-story additions with partial roof deck, garage converted to living space with second story above, and roof over porch, wall attached dwelling, alteration and construction over 50%, use variance, height maintained accessory structure, playhouse with storage below, also known as 1069 Shelburne Drive. Swear or affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, shall be done. State your name and address for the record.
Kirk Jacobs, architect, 201 Northwest Drive, Farmville, New York. Good afternoon, members of the board. Michael Leeson has asked me to appear before you with his variance request. Mr. Leeson is proposing to construct various improvements to his home, which he purchased from his grandparents approximately a year ago. These improvements include a new second floor, front roof masonry porch, garage conversion, and a second floor partially moved deck. This property is located in a residence A zone. The minimum side yard aggregate requires 15 feet. We're proposing 14 foot 2.5 inches. We do meet the minimum 5 foot side yard required. In 1971, there was a permit issued to construct a double dormer, permit number 71-01109. Looking at the plot plan, the setback to the existing second floor construction is 27 foot 8.5 inches. The proposed new second floor construction will have the same setback, 27 foot 8.5 inches. 50 plus years ago when this original permit was issued, they weren't dealing with average front yard setbacks. So now we are. The average front yard setback is 31.96 feet, and we are proposing the same setback that exists now to the second floor cantilever, which is 27 foot 8.5 inches. I have a copy of the drawing from 1970. I would have copied the permit, but the only thing on the microphone was the permit with no information filled in on it.
Mr. Jacobs, I apologize. So So, is the entire, I'm just going by my calendar here. You need a second-story addition with partial roof covered deck, right? But I have this information in my calendar, which you don't see all the time, which is the over 50%, et cetera. You know the one I'm talking about. So, is that because the entire, you're covering the whole first floor?
There are first floor alterations, interior
plus-
alterations,
plus
and
a
the
second-
garage conversion, and the whole second floor, it's gonna be, the existing second floor is gonna be demolished. When you look at the plans, it's gonna be a much nicer house than it exists now.
And is the whole second story addition all, it must be because it's only second story, it's not two story. So the entire addition to the second story after demolishing what exists as a second story is all within the footprint of the first story, right?
Yes.
And then you convert the garage, you have that unbelievably encroaching playhouse.
Yeah. but I
That we're
wanna-
gonna have to take issue with here.
Well, I have to get to that.
Height variance.
You took the
The
words-
height variance?
You took the words right out of my mouth. The existing playhouse with storage below requires the use and height variance. It maintains a 13.5 foot height with a maximum of 9 foot required. This structure was built approximately 25 years ago by Mr. Lisi's
So it might be
grandfather.
non-conforming. It might be a non-conforming playhouse.
If you say so, whatever you say goes. And for sentimental reasons, that's the only thing we would like to keep it. If you look at the plot plan, there are 2 other structures on the plot plan that would require variances, but they're going to be removed. I also would like to submit 7 letters of consent, and this includes all the abutting neighbors. Some of the abutting neighbors just appointed their property abuts for leases. So everybody is in favor for the proposed construction, including the playhouse. And as I said, Mr. Lisi is basically a new resident there, and he just got married 3 months ago.
That's the point.
He told me his wife talks a lot, and I said, well, make sure she
Doesn't everyone?
What?
Doesn't everyone? Okay, Mr.
I'll keep my
Jacobs.
mouth shut now.
Mr. Jacobs, I'm a little perplexed by the fact that the playhouse not only needs the 13 and change to 9 height variance, but a use variance?
Yeah,
Did the building department tell you why they categorized it?
because we called it a playhouse and not a shed. I'm representing.
In my almost 18 years here, I've never seen a playhouse with a use variance. So they didn't tell you why?
I'm doing the variance. I wasn't involved with the design of that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do I have any other questions?
Yes,
from the board?
yes, please. Mr. Jacobs, you're represented on the plot plan, existing wood deck removed, is it removed?
I haven't been to the property recently. I was told it was, and plus 2 sheds. The only one that's going to be remaining is the one we're going for.
Is that the playhouse?
Yes.
Okay. So we're not sure whether or not they're removed.
No, but I can find out and tell the board.
Well, I think that given that it's on the site plan as to be removed, that would just be folded into the final inspection, I would think. So as long as that happens, I'm not sure, Joe.
No, I don't know either.
I think it would be like, since
Correct.
it's on there as needs to be removed, if they go up there and do the final inspection and they're not removed, that will give rise to potential
Yeah, he
Yeah.
won't give a final sign off on the job, the inspector, until it's removed.
I'm glad you said that.
I understand that, but at this point, since they are to be removed, technically, well, not even technically, they're illegally standing.
Correct.
And should the board just put blinders on that and say, well, it'll eventually get caught out. Leave it alone. What would you do if you were up here? Would you, say,
I would,
Plants, of course, there's plants.
if I was in your shoes,
yes? I mean, there should be some type of
if you want, I can get a signed affidavit from the current owner that it will be removed, Mr. Lisi. Or if it hasn't been removed,
within the next, what kind of time period?
it'll be removed during the construction once the permit is issued.
Okay, I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the board?
Move that the hearing be closed and matter placed on the decision calendar. Mr. Jacobs, you'll be notified by mail the board's decision when it's done. Thank you. Again, have a meeting. Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have case 2023-2023, Ariel Waffles. Variance of side yard, maintain emergency unit attached dwelling, install 8-foot high farm pool closure forward of the dwelling in East Rockland Road, and located within the clear site triangle of owner's driveway, which may substantially obstruct the line of sight and demolish the existing fence, also known as 164 East Rockland Road. Swear or affirm that you will disclose the please state your name and address record.
Ariel Walkwitz, 164 East Rockaway Road in New York, 11553.
Give us a second. I got a hand up. All right. So you're here for a number of things. Go ahead and you sworn in. Sorry.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Go and tell us what you're here to.
Okay, so in 2003, I just bought the house and we installed central air. One of the units outside next to my pool is less than 5 feet from the gate, 4.11 instead of 5. So I need a variant for that. That was installed in 2003 by Sloman.
Give us a second. I got to get shut up. Maybe. Hold on, let me just orient this to understand the 8-foot fence. So part of the 8-foot fence is proposed along Rockaway Road, right?
Yes.
And then it runs down that side of your property, back, I guess, to the one-story portion of your house and cuts back to enclose the pool.
Yes.
Oh, and you also have it, I'm sorry, stone curve proposed. So the whole 8-foot fence is not there now.
It's not.
So what is enclosing the pool, or is that?
It's 6 feet, it's 6 feet wood fence. What happened in 2021, on November 13, a tree fell on my house, so he destroyed the fence. I took off those trees, and I was hoping to move my fence a little bit forward to line up with the rest of the neighbors. And also my neighbor's land is higher than mine. I'm the lowest. They have 8 feet more than me. So I want to match to their property.
Besides wanting to match,
Yeah.
first of all, does the 6-foot fence still enclose the pool?
It's enclosed but in shaky. I just fixed it because I didn't know what the outcome will be.
Is the pool closed for the winter?
Closed.
Okay.
And gated. Yeah.
And then other than wanting to line up why an 8-foot fence in the front yard setback is not usually something this board looks upon favorably. It blocks a lot of visibility, especially along the street. So what's the reason other than matching up for the proposal to have an 8-foot front yard fence?
I'm in a very heavy traffic road, it's Rockaway Road. So most of across the street from me, they have also 8. If you look at my neighbor, I'm the lowest
across the
one.
street from you, across East Rockaway Road or across Pebble Lane?
I'm the corner Pebble Lane.
I understand. Which street across is the other 8-foot?
East Rockaway Road, which is Unit Harbor side.
Which is what?
Unit Harbor.
The village of Hubert.
Yeah,
I don't live in Unit Harbor.
Okay.
I'm on the line.
I understand.
Yeah, but they consider Unit Harbor properties.
So the pinch saw is the one you're saying has an 8.
I'm not sure the name.
Directly across.
No, directly across I have trees there, and on the right side they have some property with 8 feet.
Brenda then. Okay. Okay, so that's the 8-foot fence. Okay. Your driveway. So tell us about your air conditioning units that you want to maintain.
It's a smaller, it's not a central one because we couldn't do central there. It's for the den, it's a Mitsubishi. The motor is outside.
Like the ductless.
Yes. So it's attached to my den, but it's missing like, instead of 5, I have 4.11. So from the gate, from the fence.
Give me a second.
You have a wooden fence in the back of your house?
My back of the house?
Is it a wooden fence?
Yes, wood.
How high?
6. Yes.
Yeah, Joe has this. It's a different kind.
So maybe if I, just to make sure that it's right in my mind, you had a swimming pool permit that was issued in 1967 with a 5-foot fence. And the fence on East Rockaway Road, that 5-foot fence surrounding the pool, ran parallel to East Rockaway Road, aligning with the front of your house. Is that correct?
It's a mistake the way it shows because it has a permit for 6 and 5. The 5 is only on the side of my house, which is only the door. It's a metal door that closed. The rest is 6 feet. He was asking me at that time from the building department why I have 2 permits, 6 and 5. The 5 is only for that lock. The rest is 6.
Okay, but my point is that the 6-foot, or they changed it, instead of a 5-foot, you made it a 6-foot fence.
No, there's still 5 and 6 together. Most of it is 6, the door is 5.
Okay.
From the side, from the kitchen, I have 2 entries.
But just going back to, I mean, your swimming pool where it's located,
Yes.
it almost, if I were to draw a straight line across the front of your house
Yeah.
and put a fence there, it would barely be, your pool would just clear it, right?
No, No, there's a big difference between the fence and my pool. There's a big fence. There's a shed in between.
When you had the 6-foot high fence with the pool, was that shed inside this fencing area or outside?
Inside.
Right, but my point is, if we were to draw a line across the front of your house,
Yes.
parallel with East Rockaway Road,
Yes.
it would almost touch the edge of your pool as it passed your pool.
No. No, because I have the space in between the 12.8 shed.
I'm not drawing it that way.
I have the fence, I have the shed,
Okay, hold on.
and then the pool.
No. Where's the next one of these? Let me just get. I'm suggesting that if I draw a straight line across the front of your house, that would fence, it would touch the edge of your pool.
Yes.
Isn't that the front?
This is my front of the house.
I understand.
This is the
not
back.
the front of your house.
That's my
Is that your
front.
front yard? Is that
My,
your front of your house?
this is my front of the house. I'm here, 164. This is my front door.
Yeah, your front door is along the street, right? Is East Rockaway where the front of your house is?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
this is the front of the structure, is it not?
Yes.
The most forward door.
Yes, that's my door, yeah.
But is this not the outline of your house?
So confused. Because I have,
I'll ask you from up there so it's on the record.
okay, all right.
So all I'm asking you to clarify is that
This is the pool.
if
this
the
is the
fence
front.
were on that line,
Yeah,
which would make it not forward of your house, it would still enclose the pool, but barely. Do you enter your house on East Rockaway?
yes.
So, so if I were to snap a chalk line from the front of your house to the other side of your property, it'd probably go over that edge of your pool, probably, just about.
Yes, you're right. My front, right. My front was, if I do a line, it touch my pool, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, in the normal course of things, any fence forward of your house, which would be any fence forward of that line,
Yeah,
would be the one that you have to get a variance for at least over the last about 10, 12 years.
Yes.
And actually pretty much even a 4-foot was allowable forward before that. So you did get a grant for a fence enclosing that pool.
yes.
And let me see. And a 5-foot fence, do we know where it was?
No.
Because what we would normally do, to be perfectly honest with you, is we would allow you to have the fence only to the front of your house, which would be that line. Now, if you're asking for it to be forward of that, that is a very careful analysis because not only, as you said, that's a very busy road, so even a 6-foot fence next to your driveway on a very busy road would not be something that would very often be allowable. An 8-foot fence over there is even, I don't think I've ever been asked in 18 years for an 18-foot fence for the dwelling along a busy street, to be honest, and blocking your driveway visibility.
Yeah.
That having been said, I'm a little confused about why an 8 instead of 6, other than matching up with the neighbors. And I find their request a little bit, quite an extensive request to go all the way to the street like that, when you could enclose the pool in a safe fashion by putting a 6-foot fence or 5, which would be allowable, without a variance. Now, that's not to say you're not allowed to ask for a variance, that's what we exist for. But I'd like you to tell us more about why all the way to the street on a busy street and blocking your driveway. And you actually have a driveway that allows you to pull in and pull out, which is a plus.
Yeah.
But blocking the driveway, there's a busy street and it's a significant encroachment into the area you're supposed to leave open. Now, you mentioned your neighbors have that too, so I understand. But I'd like you to tell us a little more about why.
I would like to go aesthetic ways because all of them around me have a higher land than me, so their fence is much higher than mine. But if that's not acceptable, then you see where the fence are here right now, right? In the front.
Well, I see what's proposed. That's not where it is right now, right? Let's see. It's an install.
It's already, I bought a house like that with a 6 feet wood fence in the front.
Well, is the current fence in the location that you're proposing the 8-foot fence?
No, it's a little bit, it's just about touching the shed.
Okay, so I would call that set. Is the shed staying?
Yeah, I got a permit, I got a sign for that from you. I got the variance.
Oh yeah, because it's got a 13-foot
Yeah.
so it
Yeah,
does need minor.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that's about whatever. I don't have a scale on you, but whatever, 10 feet setback from the street. That's where the fence is currently.
Yeah.
Now, does the fence in that location, is that already legal in the location by the shed?
I have no idea. I bought a house like that, and when I had that accident, I found out that, that I don't know if it's legal. But even if I put it back, I mean, the shed will be out. The shed will be out of the property.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I understand your request. I have no further questions.
Do you have anything else?
So, I guess you will deny the 8 feet, but my question, if you deny the 8 feet, can I keep and fix wherever it is now?
Not unless you have,
Another appeal?
well, whatever, any portion of it that's forward of the house, for example, that line I drew,
Yeah.
would need relief from this board, and that may already exist. You may have relief from this board putting it on the edge of the shed. You may have relief from this board putting it out forward. You would be able to determine that by going to the building department, Mr. Pellegrini. Where would you find that out?
Before we get to that, if I may, my recommendation to the board is when we deliberate is that the secretary to the board or his staff get a copy of the site plan that was approved with the pool, and we'll compare that to what you're asking for now.
I can withdraw the request and just if I need to fix the fence. I need to make it safe because when it starts to be windy and everything fall apart and I have to repair it. So I don't know what to do with that until I have a decision. What can I do with that?
Well, what he said, if he pulls the site plan that was approved, that would tell you that for sure, assuming if it wasn't a temporary grant, but that would give you, if it's a permanent grant from Secretary Mass, that would show you where you could put it right now without coming to this board again, which I'm going to tell you, my guess is it's not out to the street. My guess is at best it's that shed line that you had before, if that was even approved. If not, it would be further back. But we don't know. But Mr. Pellegrini has a good suggestion. We'll get that pulled, and then you'll know. You can put it to there if it's still an active approval, which probably it is, without any further action by this board, or you can thereafter pursue whatever request you want. If we don't approve it, we have to deliberate and figure out. We don't know at this moment what, as a group, we will collectively decide. But at the very least, you should know where you can put it as a basically right now, given whatever was previously approved.
But is it okay to do it in the shed beyond the outside to the, I think the way I spoke to the guy on the building department, he told me, right now it's not the right place.
Well, the question about the shed is on its own. She's not the shed.
Because if I have to put it back the way, the shed will be outside of the fence.
Well, but that may not, the shed would have to have approval where the shed is.
Yes,
And if the fence were legal where it was before,
yeah,
outside the shed, then the shed could have been almost as of right, but for the 13-foot horizontal. So it depends. But we wouldn't just legalize the shed because it's in the fence and illegal if it's out the fence unless it was based on that. So just let them find.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that, it kind of determines, it depends on if the fence is legal and where.
The shed is not before us.
I understand, but she's saying if we don't let her, if the fence has to go back to the front of the house, the shed will be outside of it. And how can that be? Because the shed's legal, but the shed might have been
Shed is
legal.
not legal.
We don't know.
I
She
got
says
the
it has
variance of the
approval.
shed.
Well, you know, let's.
Okay, what about the air condition?
Oh, right, the air conditioning, you need a side yard variance for that. Let me see how to put it. You're required to have, you're required to have 5 feet.
Yeah,
You propose,
it's 411 by the survey.
okay, yeah, I can see it, but 411. And the only relief you need for that is that minor side yard variance.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, is there anything else you wish to add?
Any questions from the members of the board? Any other questions?
I will move, Mr. Chairman, that this hearing be closed and matter be placed on the decision calendar. You'll be notified by mail of the board's decision once it's rendered. Mr. Vogel, he's gonna give you, hopefully, whatever that document is in his Pilgrim reference, so at least you can see where you need to go and what road have approved. Thank you. Have a good day.
Next, we have cases 3023 through 3123 West Hempstead, Suzanne, Liga, and Armand, both together. Variance lot area occupied, maintain addition attached to dwelling. Variance lot area occupied, maintain deck with stairs attached to dwelling, known as 550 Washington Avenue. You swear or affirm the whole thing, and that's the rules that we got.
That's it.
Name and address for the record.
Tina Pinello, 549 Hempstead Turnpike, West Hempstead, New York, 11552. Morning, Chairman, and good morning. Good afternoon. I'm representing Suzanne Bedanga and Armand Bonet of 550 Washington Avenue in West Hempstead. They are the purchasers of the home. Their money was held in escrow in order to obtain permits for a rear addition and a deck, which violate the lot coverage allowed in Residence B. The property is located on the south side of Washington Avenue, 153 feet west of Jennings Avenue. The maximum lot coverage allowed with the deck is 30%, and the lot coverage provided is 33.43%. The one-story addition is 320 square feet, and the deck is 388.36 square feet. The house is a non-conforming dwelling built in 1923. When the Trezos put the house on the market, they filed a non-conforming permit to obtain a certificate of occupancy for the house. That permit was issued, and obtaining a permit for the addition and the deck is required. The house was purchased by the previous owner in 2014, and the addition and the deck were existing at the time. They remain in good condition. We're not aware of any complaints, and respectfully asking the board to grant this variance.
Thank you for bringing a clean case.
Yeah, I'm assuming that is it, right?
That is it, yes.
Do I have any other questions from the board?
Move that the hearing be closed and matter be placed on decision. No, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Ms. McGill, you notify by mail of the decision once it's ready.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and next we're going to recall 2122 L1 gentlemen sworn in, just need to name that in the record.
Good afternoon again, members of the board. Lee Vanessa, around 333 Carl Wilkinson Boulevard, Uniondale, New York, here on behalf of the Pt2 LLC, the applicant and owner of the premises known as 237-2 Uniondale Boulevard in Belmont. Thank you again for the opportunity to take a look at the decision that Mr. Pellegrini brought up during the beginning of the hearing. And I now know that I've been doing this for too long because I find that it was my case back in 2005.
That's good.
And at the time, we proposed a building, a retail building on the premises that was 2,926 square feet, requiring 15 parking spaces, and they were providing 12 parking spaces on site, 3 of which, however, were in the required front yard setback along the side street.
But were those 3 granted?
Pardon?
But did we grant those 3?
Yes, we did.
So we have a 3 credit.
We have a 3 credit. That said, that plan also had a curb cut on 237th Street, which we tried to avoid with this plan because we didn't want people accessing the site from that street or exiting onto that street and burdening the residential neighbors to the north of us. So the plan that's before you does not have a curb cut on 237th Street, which is probably why there was no parking spaces along that eastern side of the property, which is probably where we got the 2 additional parking spaces that we were able to obtain. So, all that being said, based upon that prior decision, we do only require now a 7-space parking variance as opposed to the 10-space parking variance that we were initially seeking. The site as proposed again calls for a 3,959 square foot building. It would be a redevelopment of the property that has been long overdue. I don't know why the prior approval did not go forward. My guess is that it perhaps was not viable at the size that it was proposing, and consequently we have a larger building proposed on the site now. But in terms of the parking requirement, we nevertheless feel that the 10 spaces on site, plus the available off-street parking, will be able to accommodate the parking demand of the proposed development. And for that, unless the board has any questions about the site plan or the proposed development, I'll turn it over to Mr. Muller.
Good afternoon, Wayne Muller, Robinson Muller Engineering, offices at 50 Elm Street, New York.
Mr. Muller, since you were last qualified before this board, has there been any change in the qualifications?
No, for the record, I'd like to just submit copies for my analysis. And also one copy of a Google Earth aerial from April 2004. Just like to briefly go through my report. As indicated by Mr. Vanessa, the property is located on the southwestern corner of the intersection of Union Boulevard and southeastern corner of Union Boulevard and 232nd Street. Currently the site is vacant. What Mr. Vanessa indicated, and I've shown in the aerial that I'm submitting today for the record, which is a copy of the Google Earth aerial dated April 2004. The site was previously occupied by a gas station. Within that area, some of the existing construction that was demolished, you can see the canopy still remained in the area. From our estimation, there's between 4 and 6 unit positions. Actually, 4 and 8 unit positions on the property at that time. For the previous use, access was provided to the property via 237th Street, and also there were 2 curb cuts located on Union Boulevard. As Mr. Vanessa indicated, and as shown on the plans prepared by John F. Captain Architect, the proposal is to eliminate the 437th Street parking space curb cut and then we provide one access driveway to the proposal. As indicated in my report, and as depicted on the plans, the proposal requires 20 parking spaces at the rate of one parking space for every 200 square feet of gross floor area. And there are 10 parking spaces provided on the subject property as part of the proposal. In order to estimate the quantity of parking that would be generated by a building of this size, we turn to the Institute of Transportation Engineers Parking Generation Manual for a retail facility. Based on that information, we would anticipate that the maximum number of vehicles parked would be 11 on a weekday and 12 on a Saturday. As indicated, there are 10 parking spaces provided on site. So we would be deficient in a maximum of 2 parking spaces, 2 vehicles. We'd have to find parking on the street. There is available parking on Linden Boulevard along the site frontage. As indicated previously, we're closing one of the driveways which previously existed, so that creates a little bit more parking than what previously existed. And there is available on-street parking on the east side of 37th Street along the site frontage. We performed observations of the activity of parking in that area, and what we found was that there would be available parking to accommodate the 2 vehicles during peak time on Linden Boulevard, and it's so needed on 237th Street. Therefore, it is my professional opinion that the renting of parking relief will not have any significant impact on the level of activity within the area surrounding the site. I would also like to point out that, just for comparative purposes, the previous use of the property, which was a gas station, would generate a significantly greater quantity of traffic than we're proposing today, which is a small 4,000 square foot retail building. I'm happy to answer any questions.
There's parking on both sides of Linden Boulevard.
No, the west side parking is restricted. It's on the west side, all along the right-of-way, essentially it's the right-of-way of the Cross Island Parkway. There's no parking on that side, the parking's along the east side. On 237. Yes, Linden on both sides.
Linden's both sides, 237 is one side.
237 is one
What about
side.
238?
You know, I drove down the street a couple of times, and I think it's on both sides. I believe
It
it's
seems
on
to be a larger
It's a much wider, you can see from the radius stuff that 238 is wider than 237. So, if I can recall from memory, in fact, let me just take a look at the area. It's out on both sides.
I would also like to add, you know, we certainly recognize that we're asking for a greater parking variance than the last time around. But the applicant is also prepared to put some restrictions on the types of tenants that he would be prepared to lease to. We know that things like delis, food service shops, convenience markets generate a much greater parking demand than do other retail uses, clothing shops, or other types of small retail shops. So he would accept conditions to leasing to a delicatessen, food service shop, or a convenience market. Additionally,
What do you mean food service?
Well, really a restaurant, any kind of restaurant use that would be for the property. But then again, that would have a different parking requirement anyway. So
And the building department lets us select the 12.
yeah, we'd be back here for the board for that. But certainly the delicatessens and the convenience markets are as of right because we aren't serviced by a single lane road, and that would trigger the need for a parking special exception.
Okay, so
So we could limit it. We could limit delis. We could restrict delis. We could restrict convenience markets, even for small grocery stores like bodega type stores. We could agree to a condition to that. But what we could also do in order to cut down on the redundancy of employees, presently we show 4 tenant spaces. We would agree to no more than 3 tenant spaces in the building to reduce the possibility that there'd be another 1 or 2 employees on site, thus again cutting down on the need for additional employee parking. So we would be prepared to put those conditions in place, and I will send an email to the council and zoning board outlining those restrictions for the board's consideration. That's our direct presentation. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's our direct presentation.
Do you have some people who are signing in?
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz, please. And Joanna Boyd.
You guys please just step and swear.
Anyone who wants to be heard on this case or ask questions, please stand and be sworn in.
Raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please speak, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Tawana Dan Boyd, and I am a Queens native, grew up in Springfield Gardens. My mom currently owns a home in the Queens Village area. I have been born and raised, like I mentioned. I lived in the West Coast for some time, but coming back to New York, I have seen some concerns for the community, where we do have business operators and owners who have been able to capitalize on their hard work. I've also seen where the residential area has taken it's taken a toll, whether it's parking, whether it is just a heavy volume of foot traffic. It does impact us. However, today, my concern is this parcel that we're discussing was once a gas station. So my concern is when you start to dig up anything, it's what would you find? That's my concern. My mother's older. People in the area older. We have a daycare center which is right down the block. And this particular area is a high volume of just people in general. So that's one of the concerns that I have, on top of the rodent issue, which is already a problem to the area. During COVID, having patronized one of the businesses in the area, there were rats. And New York, we are not unfamiliar with them. However, these rodents were, just very comfortable with being around people. So that's a thing for me too, because when you start digging up things, then things come out. So that is one or two of the reasons why I'm here today.
As it relates to the environmental concerns that you've raised, as part of this process, there will have to be a thorough issue. It depends on the property, so that will happen as part of it. We do a portion of that, but then there are the engineering department and all that is much more involved in, the soil and how things are constructed and drainage and all that. As to the rat issue, are you referring to this specific property? Like, I'm not sure, where did you say your mom lives and you spend time?
It's Queens Village, it's exit away, right near it's 26, I believe it may be. So we do patronize the Cleaners, which is next door. There are some other businesses there, restaurants sometimes.
So this is an area you're very familiar with.
Yeah. Like I said, I grew up in New York, Queens, Springfield, Walton. That area is very familiar to me. Thank you for answering the environmental issue, because I'm not the smartest person in the room. However,
you're pretty good.
Thank you. When you do have these constructions going on, it can be a great benefactor if it's done correctly. That's my concern.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tamia Thomas, and my concern
You
was
can scoot that in front of you.
my concern with this property is basically you having and you trying to build development, as well as the attorney and the engineer stated, he said that it was a gas station. So they said, oh, it was so much busier. Okay, granted. that, yes, it probably was busier, but there's no one that left their vehicle. They were going in, they were going out. It was nothing that was going to be congested in that area for an ample amount of time. They inquired about the parking spaces. If you have 3 stores and you have 3 employees for each store, there are parking spaces. And it goes right into the community. There are the residential area that's in that area is being pushed. All the parking is being pushed into that area, which is an issue. Also, I also wanted to inquire about the voting process. How is it done? Like we came in and we voted. I live in North Franklin Square. It does affect the community over there, well, because we're the neighbors of Belmont. And I was born and I was raised in Brooklyn, and I moved to North Franklin Square, not from Garden City, about 13 years ago. I absolutely love it. I love the spacious. I love the community. I love that it's not congested. Everything's just piled up. And I do not want this to start trickling down further into Long Island. That everybody feel they can just build and stack up on top of the community that we reside in.
What do you mean by voting? I'm sorry. You mean voting for this project?
No, when we came in, we signed it. Now, is there a conflict? I'm not saying that they did, but is there a conflict of interest in who can vote? Can the attorney vote? Can the engineer vote? Can the developer vote?
As to whether or not this gets approved?
Correct.
No, only us.
So what I'm saying is when it comes down to when we write the vote, that we opposed it. So there was a few names ahead that, that was on it. So that's not a fact.
That's nothing. It's just a sign.
No, it's just so we know who you are, so we
Okay.
can listen to you and make sure you get a chance to be heard.
Okay. Also, and I feel that, okay, so now, as when I was sitting here, the owner of the lot has stated, as well as the attorney, that he has different developments in the area, different stores or whatever. Do y'all take into consideration his background? Do you investigate the stores that he may have? Is there any violations? Is there anything that to be a concern to take into consideration that if you cannot maintain what you have already, how can you start something else? It's to me that is like a big and huge concern. Does he have violations? He's saying he has several. Can you manage and maintain several? Why would you have another one if you can't keep the ones that you have?
Well, if you're aware of violations on other properties, be it this person or others, then you can call the town of Hempstead if you're in the town of Hempstead and report those. And if we were to come to know, I think, if I personally, I can speak for myself, if I were aware of an applicant here who had violations on other projects, I personally would want to know what those were, to know if they're violating conditions imposed by this board, if they're asking for more relief, etc.
Because it's to me, like, in your case, yes, I understand what you're saying, but it's also a concern. It's like, why can someone continue to develop and do other things to the point where that if you can't keep up with this, if you're in this area, why would we give you an agreement to build something else when you can't even maintain and upkeep what you have?
Or if you don't choose to upkeep what you have in
Absolutely.
accordance with promises you've made, I think we would definitely want to be aware of that and figure out how that factored into the equation. I personally do.
Right, and that's why I was wondering if that is something that y'all can look up and to inquire according to, he did state that he has private businesses. It's something that will be, I'm quite sure, on record, that it can be looked up and it can be assessed, because why would you not invest your money into what you have to build that up, to make it right, then to bring it to and start a new one?
Right.
That could be a part of greed as well.
Understood.
And I also wanted to take into consideration, they said they were limited on the stores that they would have. If you're limited on stores of what you have, then what will you have? Can you limit to having a laundromat? Because that is a heavy volume traffic area for a laundromat. Can you say, well, you cannot have a laundromat? Can you just have a clothing store? Can you just have a beauty supply store? Because there are loopholes with them saying, well, we're not going to have a deli. Oh, but we never said they was going to have a laundromat.
Well, for the most part, we are. For the most part, there are categories in the town. Like if someone requests retail space and we are inclined to grant that, we can't then, for the most part, say, oh, no, women's clothing, you can't have pizza. Right, or not a good example. You can't have milk and butter.
Right.
You know, so because we would be infringing on people's constitutional rights at some level. So there are categories that we can preclude, and sometimes applicants offer their own constraints that, you know, we're asking you to let us do this, and we will say right now that we're not going to, if we might have a deli, but we won't have more than 12 seats in a little deli, or we promise not to have live music, or you know, whatever it is. But we don't have just almighty power either to say, listen, you can have this, and nothing else. You know, there are categories.
By the way, your example of the laundromat is, it's not possible without someone coming back before this board to get other opinions. So that can't happen.
Okay. Yeah, I already mentioned that on the grounds of that they volunteered and said, oh, well, it won't be a deli. Somebody be calling particular stores, and maybe I can call one too. You know, just, you know, trying to have an even playing field here. But at the end of the day, it's basically a congestion, and it ruins the property value for the area. And like I said, it pushes things back. You know, like I said, I live in Franklin Square. It's going to push the neighborhood. It's going to bring everything. It's going to make people feel that, okay, we can just build and put up anything that we want. And it really downsized Long Island. I love Long Island. I love the city. That's why I came here. I love the freedom. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to, I'm from Brooklyn, but I would not go back. I'm sorry, I would not go back. It's just too cluttered. And it's just the freedom. You know, I'm in my field and my line of work. I love to come home and have a peace of mind, because it's very strenuous in what I do mentally and physically. And it's just a peace of mind, and I love to have that serenity, because when I go to work, I'm out there, and it's just a peace. And I want to maintain and to have that peace for the area and the neighborhood.
We understand. Mr. Fabio?
My name is Hempstead. I live 47 Marble Drive, by the street, New York, 1158.
David Hempstead. Where do you say you are?
By the street, 47 Marble Drive, by the street, 1158. I've been living there 32 years, and that looks killing everything. And I take the cross island every morning. And sometimes I get off the cross island and come to London to go down that street. I'm very familiar with it for 32 years. I've been going there, and I'm still driving through there. Across the street is a gas station. A gas station, like she said, is in and out. Once in a while you might have a little backup, but it's in and out. Next to the gas station across the street, directly across where they want to open that, it's a deli. Outside the deli is never clean. You call sanitation, you tell them about it, the floor is messy, cars are double parked. I feel sorry for the neighbors, because a block in, everybody's parking there. So the neighbors have no parking.
On 237.
Yes, across the street.
Yeah,
between
the
gas
deli and the
station
gas
and the
station
deli.
down that street.
We had an issue with the deli. We had a hold up. They used to open 24/7. They had a hold up. Now they only open till 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. They started having people coming from wherever. And I said, wherever they come from, they was hanging out in front of the deli, creating problems. Okay, I used to stop there to get coffee. I stopped doing that because people was hanging. The bad element started coming because it was 24 hours.
Yeah.
They shut down 24 hours because they had sugar. Along that same side, you have all those stores, and people are not disciplined. People are not going to go down the block, walk down and go to the store. They're going to double park. Every morning is a hazard for me to go around cars because they double park. People has no principle. Not anymore. People have no principle. They're too lazy to go park and walk. Now, on that side, you have a gas station and you have a tire shop.
what?
I mean, a tire shop. On the side, they want to build.
Oh, okay.
Right.
That other gas.
It's a gas station and it's a tire shop. Just yesterday, I was sitting there, calling the precinct to tell them there's 4 cars parked on the sidewalk. 4 cars. And I was going to take a picture. And I went to the precinct myself and spoke to the sergeant. You know what the sergeant's money? Oh, do you have a personal problem with them? Since they're open, I never went in there because I don't want that in my neighborhood. I don't even go in there. So I let them alone. Yesterday, they double parked in front of a convenience store that sells cooker, the thing you smoke and thing. It's always in and out. People double park. Same thing with the other side. Always double park cars. Pt2 Richard is the next over. That neighborhood, half a block. I'm guilty of it because if I go to Pt2 Richard, if the small lot they just bought a couple of years ago is filled, I have to park on the street. So just imagine that particular store they want to open is at the entrance of the cross island. So you have 2 major on both sides. Most people that's coming from Elma, they don't go to Southern City, they get off 13, they get off Linden, and they come up this way. It's a hazard. And I feel sorry for the neighbors because now, if you have 3 employees, it's twice. So you have it 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. The people that's buying are going to be in and out, but they're going to be in and out for 10 minutes, not in and out for seconds. So that area is saturated with business. It's saturated with business. I love businesses, bring revenue to the town, but when it's inconvenient, the people that live there, it's not like.
So you prefer a gas station, maybe?
I would take that because it's in and out. I never had a problem with the gas station because the gas station is in and out. They never have a gas cell where the line is long. So it's people go in and they go out. And even at the gas station, that deli, people park in the gas station to go buy food.
Wait, you live on 237, right? Or no?
I live in Valley Stream, but I go down that road.
Oh.
I live in Valley Stream. I live off Central Avenue.
Oh, that you were just commenting that the way it is adversely impacting the neighborhood.
Yeah, I feel
That's
sorry.
what I thought.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I feel sorry for people that live in 237, 238, even 239, I think.
That double parking is so
It
obnoxious.
is because
and that sidewalk parking obnoxious. I mean, I can't change it, but I agree, it's obnoxious.
it's not a strip mall where people go in, double park. It's out of traffic, out of flow.
Heavily
But you have people
traveled
block a lane, and people have to merge to one lane, and you have aggressive drivers. They don't want to let people in, and that's when you create an accident. They have many accidents around that area just because of double parking.
I apologize, I missed what business or businesses were proposed here. I know there was a list of what might not be. Mr. Vanessa, what businesses was it just retail for now, generic? Or if you didn't say, I just missed it.
There are no tenants who have signed letters of intent or anything to that effect.
We're analyzing it as retail?
Right,
Okay.
exactly. What we had offered were certain restrictions over and above the restrictions that apply based on the zoning board, like Mr. Gano pointed out. The laundromat would not be permitted there. The restaurant would have to come back for a greater parking variance. A fitness center would have to come back for a greater parking variance and a special use permit. So
Just generally, we're talking retail.
yeah, it's already limited by the code, and then we would limit it further.
On Linden Boulevard, across the street from me, there's like maybe 3 restaurants, and like the gentleman said over here, they are always double park cars. There's a Dunkin' Donuts that's over in the area that have on the lot.
On the directly across?
Across from it, but across from over by.
I found the Dunkin' Donuts down the street.
Right, and on that block there is Caribbean restaurant. There's a Chase restaurant, a Chase thing. There is also
Burger King.
Burger King. You have. There is a vegan place that's over there. And then when you cross the street on the same block, there is a mini mart that's over there by the Grand Central. Why do you need another one a block away?
Well, we can't really preclude someone from having a mini
No, I
because someone
understand
else has
that.
one.
No, but I'm just saying, I'm just talking about the congestion of it.
Yeah.
The congestion, because that area is congested because there's, I think it's Golden Crust is over there, and it's highly congested over there. You have the bus stops there's a bus stop, the layover stop, so the buses is always over there.
When you say over there, are you referring to the Dunkin' Donuts area?
No, block up.
When you say walk toward Cross Island or away from Cross Island?
Yeah,
The
the
bus
bus
stop
stop
is
is
directly in front of the business that
The
is.
subject property?
Yeah. And it's a layover spot, so they sit there on both sides. That's why it's no parking. So that right there is a congested area. So the New York Transit, so now you say that New York Transit can't maintain, because sometimes the mall over there, and sometimes the stores that's a block over prevent the buses, so they block in the traffic. So the buses have to block and be in the middle of the street and hold up the traffic.
Because of the double park.
Because of the double park cars, as well as because of the congestion of the other malls, the mini mall. So that's why it's no parking on both sides. And when you come in off the Grand Central going west, and that first light, when you make that left, is parking. And it goes all the way into Queens, that makes it backed up, as well as if you're going towards the Southern State, everything trickles down.
Right, it sounds like a horrible situation, but
yeah,
it doesn't change this piece of business property that is going to be used for a business use, hopefully by a good tenant who's going to keep it nice and operated properly.
Excuse me, what would you suggest that he built there, or would you rather have nothing?
Well, can I just, my concern is because the community does need business to, grow and thrive. A two-story would be, it would not look appealing. It would be an encroachment. It's a one-story? Okay, if it's one story, then it's fine. Like I said, my concern is the digging up.
Environmental potential.
Yes. As long as we're in America, we're going to build. That's what we do. That's what we do. But the thing is, let's do it correctly. It's to me, it's not about only getting the opportunity. It's like this young lady said. Let's maintain it and let's make sure that the community is taken care of first and foremost, because they're the reason why your small businesses are going to thrive.
Also, actually, when you start digging, there are tanks or whatever that they have that has not been cleaned up properly from the gas station. Once you start going in, it's like a cancer. You cut it open, and once that air hit it, it's...
Well, that's all will be taken care of the environmental review.
Right. Mr. Vanessa, I'm sure, is going to address this. The Nassau County Department of Health regulates and monitors the removal of the gas tanks, along with the Town of Hempstead Building Department, and along with whatever the DEC, Mr. Vanessa, do they regulate and monitor it because there was a gas station and potential pollution there? There's at least 3 levels of government that will monitor the pollution aspect of it, if there is any. There's also the health department. When they start excavating, and if there's rats that are going to run around, they also have to provide some type of a mitigation to trap and stop the rats.
Yeah, well, I think that. So now with the buses, because that's the main stop for the buses, will something be done about that to make sure that the public will be able to...
That's Nassau County Police Department.
And the buses stops are where they are. If whatever approval they get will not be something that says, and by the way, you can interfere with the buses. They'll have the same rules everyone else does.
Okay.
To your point, I know not everyone does, but we can't deny them that something you would otherwise grant them if that's the case, by saying, well, we're afraid you're going to block the bus. We can't presume they're going to do something wrong. Like anyone, if they're approved under certain conditions, they have to comply with all the rules everyone else does, and if they don't, whatever happens, unfortunately, like you said, they don't always get the cars off the sidewalk, the others, and people double park, which is infuriating and dangerous. But we don't presume they're going to do that, and, that's the way we have to proceed by law. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
My issue is that most of the time, I'm not saying 90% of the time, but most of the time, the person that's asking for it doesn't live in the neighborhood. They don't have the care about the neighborhood. Yes, they say they're going to do this, they're going to do that. But I don't mind when it's done, the neighbors get put with the bag. Now you have to call the sanitation. You have to call the Department of Police Department. They don't do anything. It's like
Unfortunately,
they don't.
You're 100% right, but that's the nature of the case.
But same thing with traffic. You call on cars park on the sidewalk. I mean, it's that area is too congested to have any other store. What would be good there? Another gas station. That's the only thing. Any establishment that have people come in is going to create a hazard situation for the hazard situation that we already have.
Agreed. Thank you. All right, thanks, Mr. Vanessa. Thank you all. You too.
Stick around and see what Mr. Vanessa is going to say.
Thank you. I'm trying to be brief. I am going to call up Mr. Guzman to speak to his other properties and how he maintains them and the like. But before I get to that, I just want to address some of the other things that were expressed. On the environmental, Mr. Pellegrini, you're exactly right. There are at least 3 levels of government that are going to review the redevelopment of this property should it be approved. Any contamination will have to be remediated. The tank that may or may not be in the ground, because when they did their due diligence, they did not find any permits for the removal of the tank. If there is a tank there, it's going to be removed. That's actually certainly a benefit, as opposed to it sitting there and waiting for it to rupture and contaminate the soil. So it's actually a benefit to redevelop this property, certainly from an environmental perspective and from a town-wide perspective. This is the property that has been sitting basically for 20 years, undeveloped, unsightly, providing no benefit to the community. And sure, anyone who comes in would love it to be turned into a passive park, but that's just not going to happen. If it's going to be improved in a viable fashion, it's going to need relief from this board. The roads, same thing. That when this property is redeveloped, there are going to be restrictions, requirements on the property to maintain the permit and to remove the permit, and it's all part of any demolition permits that they still need for the site removal. The parking, yes, there is a parking variance being requested here. But if you look across the street, and a lot of the concerns that were raised were for the property actually across the street,
right,
not our property. If you look at those properties that directly across the street, all those stores have absolutely no parking. We are at least proposing 10 parking spaces for a small retail center and appropriate restrictions that would limit the types of activities and tenants that can go in those retail spaces so that it doesn't create a parking problem or congestion.
And then no laundromat, which is a good one.
No laundromat. Right. We have to come back to this board. The concern or the desire for another gas station there, frankly, no gas station is going in there unless it also has a convenience store. And if it has a convenience store, it's going to need parking, and people do come in and park and stay and go inside, and it'll be far more active than this small retail center. Plus, it would have the gasoline activity. So it's just not going to be developed with the gasoline alone. None of the major companies are doing anything other than gasoline and convenience, and many of them are also doing now gasoline and other types of services. 7-Eleven has increased tenfold on Long Island with gasoline service stations and their convenience markets. They're closing a lot of convenience markets so that they can open convenience markets in gas stations. The other properties, I'd like to call Mr. Usman on. Mr. Usman, just talk to the board about your end of operations.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please take a seat and state your name, address for the record.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Mohammed Islam. I'm a resident of Hempstead, 709 Church Road.
Let me ask you, what other properties do you own and will maintain in the area?
So my father and I have owned several properties from retail storefronts. Directly across the street, there is a Golden Crust grocery store and a laundromat, which have been under our ownership for the last 15 to 20 years.
Is that in the group that says deli, catering, seafood, meal salon?
No, that is across the street. If you go further down Linden, it's actually in Queens, Cambria Heights. It's not a part of Belmont.
Oh, across
across Linden. If you go further down,
over the Cross Island.
Over the Cross Island, right. That's to your left side. You'll see a strip that my father has owned for the last 20 years. When we acquired that property, it was originally just a grocery store. And my father revitalized that parcel, made it into a multi-unit storefront that we've operated for the last 20 years. And lots of residents from the community can vouch that we have a clean, sustainable, maintained business in that area. We helped the community by offering, food during COVID. We were one of the only places open during COVID that was allowed to operate, and we frankly donated several amounts of food to local churches and family gatherings and all that. Aside from that, we're talking directly just about town of Hempstead jurisdiction. We own properties in Valley Stream like industrial warehousing on Hancock Place. We own single-family homes that we're renting out and built from scratch around Valley Stream, Hewlett, North Woodmere. So we have experience with building from scratch. We have experience with operating retail storefronts. And to the question of, what tenants we would allow here, we've had several people approach us for gas station services. We've had several people approach us for, trucking companies, but we didn't want to allow that to, operate there for one, because we own businesses directly down the street. We don't want congestion, right? Because that also affects our business. And we own a laundromat, we own a food service business already, we own a grocery store, so we don't want those businesses as well. So for us to restrict those is perfectly fine. We just want to help revitalize the area. Like I said, we've been in this area for 20 years. I go down this Boulevard Street, I go down in the Cross Island, and I use it almost every day. And I know, that congestion won't help anyone, and we're trying to do what's best here. Like Mr. Vanessa said, the tanks, if there are any restrictions that are applied, we're happy to meet them and build ethically and anything that's environmental friendly.
Mr. Vanessa, would your client accept a condition, no trucking company there?
No trucking company?
Yes, he said they were approached.
Yes. Mr. Usman, do you have any notices of violation or violations or district court proceedings currently pending against any of your retail centers?
No, not to my knowledge.
Thank you. Unless the board has any further questions of Mr. Usman, I'll just sum up again by saying this is commercially zoned property, business X district, which does permit retail development. I can understand that there are concerns from the community, but frankly, nobody from 237th or 238th Street has even come out today. That being said, Mr. Usman and his father plan to develop this property in a responsible way and based upon the restrictions that they're willing to place on it. I think it is a good accommodation in order to revitalize this site, put it back on a paying basis, provide greater sales taxes to the county, provide greater real estate taxes to the county and the school district, and at the same time reduce congestion and prevent parking overflow. So I think as proposed, and again, I will submit an email with the conditions that we would be prepared to accept. But based upon those conditions, and based upon the testimony from Mr. Mott, I would ask the board to grant the application. Thank you.
Vanessa, one quick thing, if you said it, I apologize. Can you just name a couple of the things that it could be as of right, so I can, in my mind,
Well, a food service shop with 12 seats or less, a retail store, it could also be an insurance office. You could have, I mean, would you agree to no medical office? No medical office, we could agree with a condition on that. Because medical office, as you know, even though the parking requirement for the town of Hempstead for office is the same, whether it's medical office, professional office, or a bank.
could it be a fast food restaurant as of right?
Fast food restaurant? No, it could not, because the parking requirement is different, anything more. I mean, theoretically, if you weren't going to have, if you're going to have 12 seats or less and have a takeout place, that's considered a food retail shop or a food service shop. But if you were going to have a restaurant, then they calculate that at a different parking. What else? Basically, a retail, a hair salon, a nail salon could be there, a cell phone retailer, that kind of thing.
All right, I got it. That's all.
Thank
That
you.
concludes your,
Yes.
do I have any other questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I will move that the hearing be closed, the matter be placed on the city calendar. Mr. Vanessa, Mr. Guzman, Mr. Moran, everyone else who signed in on the case will receive a copy of the board's decision by mail once it is rendered. Thank you all for coming and participating. It does matter. We do listen, and we really appreciate your time. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second.
Aye.
I got case number 32 of 23, near Valley Street, Marzana Ahmad, variance, side yard, contained cellar entrance, attached dwelling, north side of Marlow Road, number 68.14 feet west of Arkansas Drive, also known as 17 Marlow Road. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that I can tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please take a seat and address me right here.
Jim Jordan, 9 Flamingo Drive, Smithtown, New York, 01787. Feedback. Here today representing Farzana Ahmad, who resides at 17 Marlow Road, Valley Stream, New York, 11580. I'm here today with regards to the cellar entrance.
Where does the owner live?
The owner is 17 Marlow Road.
Oh, okay. It wasn't sure.
I'm here today with regards to the cellar entrance located on the northeast corner of the back of the property. The cellar entrance is currently holding 4.4 feet, where 5 feet is required. That is a 26-foot encroachment, approximately inches, that being 7.2 inches. The entrance was installed approximately around 2007, as well as a one-story kitchen bunk out in the same area on the northeast corner, and as well as a finished basement, all which have been filed for and all are applying except for the cellar entrance. Farzana occupies a house with her husband and her 4 children. Since approximately 2005, they own the house. And that pretty much completes the case. As you can see, it's a very de minimis variance.
What brings you before the board today?
The cellar entrance is encroaching 0.6 inches into the side yard.
Did somebody complain about it? Did they get
No, I didn't call like code enforcement, and they did ask that, why you are coming forward on this, and it's just the father and the mother and father are getting older, and their children will eventually be inheriting the house, and they like I said, they did a kitchen bump out in the back, and they just didn't want their house in order with proper studios.
Thank you.
Have you been in the house?
I have not been inside the house. I have the plans. I see from the plans.
Do you have any idea what's in the basement?
Yes, I do. There are mechanicals in the basement. There's a laundry room in the basement. There is, and the rest is just finished storage and a bathroom.
There is a bathroom.
Yes, there is a bathroom. I do think that there's This is a house with 4 children. They do hang out there. They keep their hobbies, equipment in there. As far as I know, the house is maintained, and used specifically, for those reasons. And there are no code enforcement or complaints.
There's no kitchen in the basement.
There is no kitchen.
How high are the ceilings?
They would have to comply with state code, which would be at least 7.8, I believe. I'd have to look on the plans, but they meet the required ceiling height.
I see on the open permits, a prior request in 2008 to maintain an interior finished basement with a bath and an exterior stair. Was the staircase before the board denied before? Or?
So, no, someone was hired, they wanted to do this, and it didn't work out, and it got filed, and whoever this person is, we wound up having to take over because they kind of fell off the plan. So we had to redraw and refile this properly.
Okay, but my question is, in 2008, what happened to that? It's a current open building permit, so I just want to know if it came to the zoning board and as a zoning case it was denied or approved and they just didn't finalize the permitting on it?
I don't know. I actually know what that is. It's a great question because it really shouldn't have come to that. That it should be abandoned or suspended.
What was the difference between this and that?
I don't know what that permit is. As far as I was concerned, that the original filing was abandoned and done.
Good. 2008. Let's check.
Yeah.
The mother-daughter still there?
Sorry?
Mother-daughter, they had an application in 2007 for a mother-daughter.
There is no mother-daughter to my knowledge. It is open finished space with a bathroom, you have the mechanicals, and you have the laundry room.
How many kitchens are in the house?
There's only one kitchen in the house.
I'm sorry if you said it already. I actually used the restroom shortly. How many people live in the house?
It is the applicant, her husband, and 4 children.
How old are the children?
14 and 22.
That's 2.
14 to 22. Oh, I don't know.
Ranging. I got you. I don't have any elevation. Oh, I do. I apologize. What's this? Doesn't have the ceiling height in the basement here. Do you happen to know what it is?
Yeah, it's
Ceiling height is based.
Okay. She said that you had testified as 7 foot 8 inches.
As far as I know, it does meet state code. We have the 75/8 minimum.
Do you think it's greater than that?
I don't think.
I'm actually asking if it's greater than that, just as much as.
I have 6'10" ceiling height.
Okay.
10 feet.
6'10".
6'10" reverse.
Was, on my plans, the kitchen has a different kind of, if it was added recently, was that extension for the kitchen added recently?
They have the kitchen bump out, the finished basement and cellar entrance. I have the dates on
Well, the kitchen bump out was probably as of right. But the way it is on the plans, it looks like it was a new addition.
I did get my information together on that. I believe. So the finished basement and cellar entrance were around 2006, 2007, and the kitchen bump out to the back was done closer to 2018.
Who's Buddha? B-H-U-T-T-A.
Husband.
The wife?
We don't really have on the record, it may just be, wasn't picked up, a building permit for that kitchen bump out. Not that it's before us for variances, but we always get a list of the permits, open, closed.
Right, and I apologize, I don't have that list with me. You know, we go through so much to get before you, and so that obviously was uploaded, I just don't have a copy of it.
Do you happen to know where the kitchen was before it was relocated?
I do not. I don't have it. I'm looking at the plans right now, and I do not see where it was previous. Obviously, it's a kitchen now. I would assume where that kitchen was kind of tiny.
Excuse me, who owns the property?
If you see, I'm sorry,
Who owns the property?
the wife owns the property. That is, the applicant owns the property.
Franzana.
Yes.
But the paperwork shows Buddha residence.
Unfortunately, we didn't know that the wife was the actual deed holder of the property.
I see.
May I ask you, if you said it already, I apologize because I did step out for a moment. Did you, have you been to the house?
I have not been in the house. I have not been in the house. I only have the plans in front of me showing me what is there. I have spoken to the son he's much better filed with English, and he answered all the questions that I thought would be pertinent to the case. And I do have the plans which I can look at for any technical questions like ceiling heights, but I've not been there.
And did your clients came to own the premises after 2008?
No.
So they were the applicants for the mother-daughter?
Yes.
Something changed?
I guess something changed, yeah.
Okay. And, the reason that we asked, the reason that we're interested, is whenever there's 2 grown-ups and 4 kids, 3 levels, with each of which can be accessed by a different entrance. And not that your clients are going to use it improperly, but with bathrooms on every floor, there's a lot of plumbing available if someone wants to stick in a kitchen. And in the town of Hempstead, to be perfectly honest, we do have trouble with that sometimes. So cellar entrances can always give rise to additional interest, if you will, because even if your client doesn't want to stick an apartment down there,
right.
If they sell it, someone else might want to. And so cellar entrances are, we're not crazy about them. I should speak for myself. As a general rule, though, they seem to facilitate the easier converting of the space to some use that's not in compliance with the ordinance, if you will, than if they're not there. Granted, some people have a legitimate need for them or wish for them. But anyway, there's just kind of a lot going on here, and that's why I think myself and others would prefer, if you had been there and said, and been able to say to us, I've been there, there's nothing even looking like a kitchen on the basement or on the second floors, if you will. And the fact that the kitchen was apparently relocated to this new location, immediately makes me wonder where was the old one? Is it still there? Again, not to impart on anyone. We had a family earlier that bought a place that was represented to be a 2 or 3 family, and that's how they're using it now. It wasn't legally either of those, but they were not, intentionally violating any ordinances, but in fact, they were misled. So again, not to impart on anyone any ill will, but this is our job.
And I completely understand, and I spoke with my client about that, and I did, he was kind of the liaison because of the language barrier. But I was very diligent in asking that question, has this been used properly? Has it been, has there been any complaints? And he tells me that there has been no complaints and they do not use it for those specific, those reasons. And I said, well, they're not. I explained to him that these are really not popular applications. However, we are looking at a de minimis 7 inches, 7.2 2 inches.
And do you happen to know that old application that your clients had for a mother-daughter? It doesn't appear. It's on here as an application to legalize existing finished basement. In 2007, it was the mother-daughter application, which we saw came before us in 2008. Right, I saw it on the open
You had, I apologize, you had someone, there was a variance in 2008 for a mother-daughter for a kitchen in the basement, which is not allowed.
No, it doesn't say basement.
Yeah, I don't know where let me just go back.
Okay, so it was a 2-level mother-daughter.
I think your client owned by the house.
They owned it now during the time. In 2007, there was a mother-daughter application.
Okay.
Do we know what happened with that?
I do not.
Do we know if the kitchen associated with that? Usually when we get a mother-daughter application, the second kitchen associated with it is already in. It's very common.
Right.
So my question now is, if the kitchen was in during that application, because you said your clients owned it at that time, I have nothing here for a permit to remove the plumbing, etc. for the kitchen.
Well, I guess that's my question. Are you telling me that they went for the mother-daughter, got granted the mother-daughter, took the permit out?
I can't tell if it was granted. I can tell it.
Or is it still an application status?
It's unclear to me. I would be surprised if it were, but it just shows an 07 application. I guess we can look up the status of that. But again, if it's more often the case than not when an application like that comes before us, the kitchen's already in. It's oftentimes someone bought a house that's already mother-daughter, they come back before us to continue such use. So again, between the cellar entrance and bathrooms on every floor, I just wanted to follow up on if there was a kitchen, and then we have the kitchen that was relocated as part of the 21 work. And the last thing is, the file before us is the application 21-11049. Now, on my calendar, what appears to be before us today is simply the cellar entrance attached to the dwelling. On the application printout, that same application number is associated with legalized existing finished basement and rear addition and cellar entrance. Do you know if the... I'm looking at the only thing before us is the cellar entrance, which would...
I'm sorry.
I see that.
This whole application before us.
You see that.
The rear addition doesn't need a variance.
I understand, but what about
It's before us. It's not. It's on the application.
That's what I'm asking. I understand it's all the same application. There's 3 names on this application. That application comes to us with one thing on it, the cellar entrance. I just want to know what's before us.
It's all application.
So the cellar entrance and the additions as of right, presumably.
And so is the finished basement.
Okay, that's exactly what it is.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was asking him. Does he know of those three items? That's exactly what I'm asking him. The only thing that. So here's the item. So did you already close the basement interior alterations?
No, that's all part of the same application. See, according to.
I know they're on the same application. Are the interior alterations in the basement done already?
Yes, this is a legalization application I'm planning.
But you don't have a CO of the basement?
Correct. I don't have a CO for the finished basement. I don't have a CO for the kitchen extension off the back or the cellar entrance. All which were filed for as a business in the same application.
I just want to make sure what we're analyzing is just the cellar entrance.
Yeah, it's simply the cellar entrance. It's encroaching 0.6 feet. So it's 5 feet. We got 4.4. So 7.2 inches is the encroachment.
Do you know if the cellar entrance was put in recently or long ago?
Yes, I do. The cellar entrance was put in 2006-07.
Right, the same time as mother-daughter, basically.
Yeah, the mother-daughter is new.
Is that the case, sir? Is that your case?
That would be my case. You know, obviously, I don't feel the application has any negative effect or impact on its character of the neighborhood or environmental status, and graciously hope the board will grant this application and find it de minimis.
Do I have any other questions from the members of the board?
The hearing is closed and I placed on the decision calendar. Mr. Jordan, you will be notified by mail of what's the situation. Thank you. Happy New Year. Have a nice day. Remainder remains.
Last we have case 3423, 11th Avenue. Daniel B. Restaurant Incorporated. Wave and parking, proposed restaurant in the existing building, also known as 2949 Hempstead Terminal. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please take a seat, state your name and address for the record.
Oh boy, we have exhibits. I'm here. There's no exhibits allowed after 4 o'clock.
My name is Tamara Arsinia, Albertson and Associates, 2116 Merritt Avenue, New York. We are really obligated them to the restaurant fee for a variance of off-street parking requirements. Premises is under application is located at the northeast corner of Hempstead Turnpike and Division Avenue, Levittown. It's still in business and developed with a multi-tenant commercial shopping center on a parcel property with 77,005 square feet of lot area. This center was constructed in 1949 and has no on-site parking. However, it is surrounded by the Hempstead Municipal parking field L2 to its rear and a marginal road in front of the building abutting Hempstead Turnpike. The parking field and marginal road contain over 1,750 parking spaces to serve the center and other businesses in the area. By this application, the applicant seeks a variance from off-street parking requirements in order to utilize the space formerly occupied as a martial arts school and training facility as a Chinese restaurant. The first floor of the space is 4,292 square feet. There is also a cellar or basement storage area, which is 6,665 square feet. For restaurants, parking is calculated at 1 parking space for each 3 seats, or 100 square feet of total floor area, whichever is greater, plus 1 parking space for every 4 employees. The restaurant proposes to have 127 seats, which at 1 space per 3 seats results in more than 3 parking spaces required.
How many spaces?
23.
23 could be required for the seats. Then 9 employees, which have a water park, 1 space for 4 employees requires 3 spaces. For the cellar storage, 1 parking space per 500 square feet is required, which comes to 13 required parking spaces.
Is that part of the 43, the 13, or? Is the 13 part of the 43 or we're adding it on?
Separate. So there's 14 for the seats, 4 for the, 3 for the employees, and 13 for the storage township. So altogether, 59. I can repeat that if you like.
No, 59 is what I mean.
Okay. So yeah, so based on these calculations, a total of 59 spaces is required. This is 3 spaces more than the calculation is performed based on 1 space for every 100 square feet. So we're going to use the 1 per 3 seats instead.
We're using the 59.
Yes. The fire tenant space required 23 spaces as per their approved plan. So we're asking for a difference of 36 spaces.
Wow, what was the prior business?
It was the martial arts center.
So they needed 23 and you need 59? Same square footage?
Yeah, it's the same size. The total required by the center is 383 with none provided.
I'm sorry, can you say that please?
Yeah, the total for the center overall is 389, none provided. As previously noted, the surrounding town of Hempstead municipal parking fields contain over 1,500 spaces, and the marginal road in the Bronx contains over 250 spaces.
Now I see why you bought the exhibit, probably.
Yes,
that
just to lay it out, yeah.
Right? Sure. Let's see.
Yeah. Numerous approvals for parking waivers have been granted over the years for the center.
Get more please.
Operating hours for the restaurant will be Monday through Thursday and Sunday 11 to 9, Friday and Saturday 11 to 11. The staff will be 9 to 12 people with 9 maximums at any time. So unless the board has any questions for me at this time, I'd like to call our traffic and parking expert with this John Ryan to testify regarding our request for the various parking.
Mr. Mulryan, since you were previously granted expert status before this board, did any of your qualifications change?
No, they haven't.
None have been revoked. You've not been censured or sanctioned.
No, not since
No
the
licenses withdrawn.
Nothing, or you should say nothing I'm aware of.
Not that they've notified you yet.
You've heard of George Santos, right?
I have not gone down that route. Shumai, Hawaii Engineering, 1225 Franklin Avenue, Garden City, New York. Good evening. Before you tonight is a conversion of retail into restaurant. One of the questions that was asked before was the comparison of the previous use versus this use. And I believe that one of the differences that is coming up is the calculation of storage in the basement, which adds another 13 parking spaces. So by our calculation, including that storage space, which we're including, the previous use would require 35. The upstairs would require 23, which was mentioned before. So I think that's part of the difference.
Well, didn't they use it also for storage? Why would they? Not to your knowledge. Okay, so you're just saying the space, the usable space, the difference was 23, and for yours then it would be like 36.
Correct.
If the 13 goes down.
So the increase based on those calculations would be 24. Regardless of where we were before or where we are now, this is a strip center that has 0 parking, but sits within the municipal parking lot L2, which has parking in front of the stores as well as the rear of the stores. The aerial photograph, a picture's worth 1,000 words of the exhibit, shows this is the size of the lot that is under consideration today. This is a store, obviously, within a strip center. All of the parking in the front and all of the parking in the rear, again, is part of the municipal lot L2. These parking spaces here are, once again, part of that same municipal lot, as well as the parking in the middle of the, what I'll call the overall property. and the marginal road, which was discussed earlier.
Can people go from that other parking lot in the businesses?
Yes. Yes,
Do you
there's-
have a report here?
Yes.
Is it in the file?
It was submitted electronically, but I do have a hard copy.
Do you need that hard copy? All right, we'll just take that in there. This is me something to look at. Mr. Regano wants to follow along as do I. The rest of these folks, I don't know.
So once again, based on the...
We don't need to.
Yes,
the abundance of parking in and around the site, we don't feel that this will be an application that will cause any harm to the nearby residents. We are shielded from those residential properties by a large amount of retail and commercial space. There is the school directly to the north of us, but again, we're not competing at the same parking spaces, which would not peak at the same period of time. This would be more of an evening, Friday, Saturday night peak, although we have a lunch crowd, which parking lot has no issue satisfying.
What kind of food did they supply to the
Chinese food.
Chinese. And no entertainment, anything like that? Thank you. Not familiar with the lots.
That is my case in point. If there's a
I always go through the counts, like follow along, so you don't have to do that, given the number of spots there.
And again, as I say, there's over 1,500 parking spaces surrounding the subject site. We're asking for an increase of 24, which is de minimis to the overall number available. And as anyone that tries to make that site knows, parking in front does get a little busy, but in the rear there's ample parking. And just to point out, these are sidewalks that lead directly to the front of the building from that parking area.
So there's no restaurant in the basement? You seem to get out of the parking.
Is that the case?
Yes.
Do I have any other questions for the board?
I move that the hearing be closed and matter placed on the decision calendar. You will be notified by mail the board's decision once it's rendered. Have a nice day. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Can you just take that? We have a...
You can take it.
No, but some guys don't bring it, when you did, bring it on the thing, so if you need to fold it to the file, that's why I was saying we don't need to fold it. You have the micro versions.
We'll say something. Yes. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and do decisions. If that pleases me, pleases the board.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
tax. No tax up front. $5.36 refund, including the 14.
Oh my God, they sent us that. It was like $1,000.
And we, by the way, we didn't get any trade-ins.
I gotta tell my husband.
I had to buy, I'll tell you what I did after that. I had to buy an iPhone 12 for used, $200. They had an $800 discount. And I swore it was for discount. No, that's not the Pro.
That's not the problem, that's just,
This is just the plain John McGinnis, 128 gigabytes. My wife has 256.
yeah, I'm gonna have to trade up to 256.
And, you know, I'll never use 128. Never use it. prefer to be paid. Okay, folks. There's a case on the morning, cases on the morning calendar that were not decided.
Yes.
First page, 823, 823, 923, Roosevelt and Rick Fayette. Those are with all the, I guess,
That was placed on hold.
yeah, do we want to, Mr. Motto, first page, 823, 923? Do we want to place that one on the reserve calendar? Or whatever?
Yeah, I just think that we didn't have a chance to watch the video, and it's unclear. My recollection of the testimony was different than what I read on my calendar, but maybe it's just a matter of the wording. If we could, between now and the next meeting, be able to read back through, or council could look back through. This says replace them without a clear sight triangle at both neighbors' driveways. The site plan and the testimony, as I understood it, seemed to show the clear sight triangle in place. Maybe the difference was it showed a diagram of clear sight triangles if they were cutting it out, but they also were essentially seeing picket fences, so it's unclear to me what the proposal actually is. I feel like there's a difference between what was said and what I understood it to be. So we just need to parse out what actually the request is.
Final down. You parse it out, write a proposed plan. As usual with our fences, catty corner the two driveways, 15, 10 feet, whatever it is. And then on the corner, the street intersection, they ask for a picket fence 4 foot tall.
Yeah, the confusion is that.
So yeah, we could do something either it would be open picket design, which we've done in the past, and or we could say that it's required to be cut back 10 feet. So those are two ones that we usually do. There's no open picket, it's allowed to be on the line, so you can see through it, or we say back 10 feet.
The diagram seemed to show in the corner Joe's talking about that there was what we traditionally call the real clear sight triangle, which this new language with the driveways didn't used to be a clear sight triangle. So the real clear sight triangle, the site plan seemed to show the picket was actually in it, like Joe said. The other two driveway corners, the applicant and his neighbor on this side and the neighbor on that side, they seem to ask for a picket fence in that clear sight triangles, but the diagram seemed to show them set back. Now maybe they're just diagramming the picket fence in that to show where they want to put the 4 foot picket, but we just need to parse that out.
Yes, let me do a draft decision, including whereas clauses explaining the testimony. It says, whereas the relief being requested is X, whereas applicant's testimony indicates that he's...
Yeah, but my thing is the drawing that was done, was that done by the town, by the building department? You know how sometimes they show that where things should be?
Let me check that. But before I put together the decision, I'll make sure to check with the building department and see that it is actually, what is shown on the site plan is accurate to what actually exists.
What do we actually want to do? Do we want them to cut it back? Do we want them to put the clear picket off and let them do it in the corners? Which do we want?
I think the clear
I understand.
got problems with it.
I agree. So do we want the draft to say...
There's a homeless person living in this driveway.
He's so do we want the draft to be 4 foot see-through picket and you can have it in all 3 clear sight triangles? Is that what I just want to know that.
Well, the decision that I would tailor would be granted pursuant to Exhibit 1, which is the site plan being submitted. So if they're showing the clear sight triangles there, there'd be no condition indicating that we draw it back. It would just be pursuant to the site plan.
Well, it's unclear what they're showing. If they draw a triangle, I know, but when he goes to do that, why don't we just figure out what we find acceptable so we can not do this again next time?
Well, I think, not to belabor the point, but I think it shows to me that it was catty corner around the driveways.
See, I thought the opposite. I thought you were saying, here's the clear sight triangle, and we're asking you if we can put the picket fence and not cut it back.
No, the picket fence was only the street corner.
Right. So I thought it was catty corner.
No, but it clearly shows 4 foot picket fences on all 3 of those corners. Now, where do they need for it to be? But look, if we just figure out what is acceptable, when you call, you can clarify, or when you watch the video, You can see if that meets with what we find acceptable, and then you'll be able to go ahead and start your draft.
No, I think I got a grasp of it. If worst comes to worst, I'll offer multiple options as to whether or not on that corner we prefer it to be see-through picket or cut back. As long as the two are going to be.
I'll say, I feel, given the issues he has there, given that there's, the only driver with most of the issue is the guy on the main street. If it's a see-through 4-foot picket, I'm okay with it being in the corner because it's see-through, which is the whole reason we cut back the corner. I don't know how the rest of the people
I
feel.
agree, that Ken does too.
Yeah, because there's real safety issues he has. So I just, now we just have to make the paperwork match what we want.
Patrick, you got gas.
Why are you making fun of me?
I'm not. He starts smiling. I can't wait for it.
There's absolutely
Next case. What's the next case?
Is that all you have to do?
We did the morning.
Okay. 1623. What was the decision?
Oh, we held that for Kim and you to inspect. And we held another
To
one.
construct, so.
It's a full
Full store.
Yes.
for sure.
Kim, what's the other one that you're going to inspect?
I have a fragment
Franklin Square.
12, 13.
Yes.
I will.
And the other one is this one, 12.
I'm not sure if you wanted to, but I just asked Kim.
It's been there 20 years.
Yeah, I didn't think it was problematic, but I just wanted to have everyone here.
Page 3.
Are we on the PM calendar?
Yes. We did.
So about case 21 of 2023.
Yeah. So go ahead and, oh, you can call it first.
I'm calling case number 21 of 2023, Knox Venture 2 LLC, variance of rear yard, construct a one-story retail building, variance of off-street parking in front of that setback on 237th Street, southeast corner of Linden Boulevard, 237th Street, also known as 237-02 Linden Boulevard.
Okay, so I have, on this case, I did have some input, given what we learned, which is that the net change in parking is literally 7 spaces, netting out the changes. I had no problem with this case. I know that the secret determination has not been made. There was some testimony and all the materials in the file on which to make that. So, Mr. Chairman, I will move that as it relates to the case which you just described, case 21. I'm sorry, Mr. Pellegrini, just know that he's going to submit to us some conditions and or letter describing that which they agreed to in the hearing, which can be included in any grant or.
I'll get a draft. I'll get an email from Bill regarding those conditions, and then I'll put together a draft grant including those conditions.
Well, I got to make the motion. Just one more. Okay.
Make the secret.
That's all right.
One secret is already done.
I will make the
One institutional knowledge, go from state.
Okay, we get the joke.
He wanted originally 4, only said 3. Years ago, we had a case near Rockville Center that the guy had, I'll say, a 4,000 square foot, 4 little stores. They demoed the walls between it and they put up a 7-Eleven. One building with the same amount of square feet. And the people went nuts. What we want to do, I believe, is hold his feet to the fire and say no less than 3 tenant spaces. Does that sound plausible?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's retail. And if he wants to make it into 1711, if it still meets other requirements, he has it right, unless, if making 1711 changes the parking requirements, then he doesn't have to come back.
Well,
Then
yes,
why
but-
would we preclude?
Oh, no, I'm saying, I don't want you to preclude, I'm saying that if he agrees to it, you guys can preclude it, it's whether or not, whether you want to preclude it, that's the only question.
Right, that's what I threw right.
All right, well, when we do the case, we'll have to figure that out.
Is that not the case where you said no deli?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, we'll have all those.
Yeah, those, I have no delis, I have no medical offices, but there's more.
He said no convenience store, no
Yep.
small grocery store.
No bodegas, yeah.
No trucking company.
Yes.
Right, no restaurant, no laundromat.
Yeah, those are correct, that you submit those conditions.
Is it a convenience store?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can go back and forth with them, I'll review the live stream and go back and just some things that, Bill's used this scripture, he will, but if there's anything I find missing, I'll do the live stream and review it.
John knows what else would you call it, it's not a hospital. All right, so let's move on.
Case 23, 23, has been
22. These two cases are reasonable.
22, 23, Summit Realty Industries, North Street Park, construct a two-story mixed-use building for retail and 8 apartments, south side of Hempstead, current height 261.26 feet, west of Belmont Road.
Okay, this is-
Also known as 445.
So this is the case he said, we already approved, except in order to reach an agreement about the cell company getting back to its cell tower, they agreed to shrink the building a slight amount, which caused them to lose 2 parking spots, but they needed one less, so I think they're netting
They
out.
eliminated the curb cut.
Right, they're netting out one, they need one more parking spot variance than that which we already granted. So if I might, I'll just make the motion, yes. I move in case 22 of 2023 that the board adopt a negative declaration as to secret determination based on the testimony and those other documents that they were filed.
Second.
And further, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion as relates to the same case, that the board approve the request as approve the case as requested.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
The Pt2 training is only
It doesn't say.
The Equinox and the Blue Summit did not get the NCPC checkers back. It did not. No, I assume it's going back tomorrow.
Yep, all grants, well, we did this last time, all grants.
I couldn't hear.
All grants that we do approve are subject to the determination of the NCPC. So if the NCPC then either a local determination or finds that they approve it, that's when I've been sending out the decisions. So all those 2 cases that we have before, the ones that we made conditions on.
Okay, yes.
All right, so
You're in charge.
Is 23, 23 is Walnut. Right ahead, don't do that. Go to the left.
We could shit out of those cases today. But anyway, if it's a disapproval, you don't do it, correct?
Correct. If it's a disapproval, that means we gotta come back and
Even though we may have unanimously granted it here,
it doesn't subsequently overturn that, no, because we don't have that information to overturn it, the recommendation from the NCPC.
or even if they give us a recommendation with conditions.
So
if we need a 5 on the vote.
correct. So
only a local determination.
only a local determination. So let's say, for example, because this is a parking case, they come back and say, which is very common, Marty Gatz, I want a traffic study. Then we'll bring it back to you guys, say we can reopen this case, wait for the NCPC determination, or at least put it back on reserve, and then we can come to a determination after they come to the final.
I know you always have us in the best interest. I just want to make sure.
Go ahead.
Now we can comment.
Case 2309. Sophiaville Walton, special exception to install accessory structure, gazebo, fire lodging, permitted exceeds horizontal maximum. Affecting property at 31 Nassau Street in Elma has been adjourned to February 1st at 9:30 a.m. Case 24, 2023, Leadtown. Richard Lorraine, variances allowed area occupied from the average setback, side yard aggregate, construct addition, roof over open porch, and convert garage to living space or attached to dwelling. Property located at 32 Tower Lane in Leadtown. Do I have a motion?
I I move that case 2423, Levittown Richard Merlini, at 32 Tower Lane be granted as requested, and with representation that they would remove the pergola on the property, and we'll give it a time limit for that. 60 days, 45 days, something. I think that's reasonable.
Okay. With the condition that they remove the pergola within 60 days.
Yeah.
Yep. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Case 25 for 2023. American Avenue, Hospitality LLC, DBA New Post of Wall Street Parking, and expanded existing restaurant. Eastside American Avenue, 162.42 feet south of Benson Lane, Brainfield Keys Place, also known as 16-18 American Avenue. Effective notice, that case has been adjourned to February 1st at 9:30 a.m. And I will assume there are no objections. Cases 26 and 27, 2023, Franklin Square, Michael Beasley. Variances, front yard average setback, side yard aggregate, construct second-story addition with partial roofed over deck, garage converted to living space with second-story above and roof over, portable attached plumbing. Alteration of construction over 50% use variance, height, maintain accessory structure, playhouse, storage proposed. South side of Shelbourne Drive, 480 feet west of Lewis Place, also known as 1069 Shelbourne Drive, in Frankfurt Square. Do I have a motion?
I move cases 26 and 27 of 2023 located at 1069 Shelbourne Drive, Franklin Square, be granted as requested.
There is to be an affidavit that one submitted, that one shed is to be removed. That was my recollection.
Second. Two sheds have to be removed.
There were two sheds.
Yeah.
2 sheds and a deck.
So what, 60 days to remove?
I would do that.
To be consistent.
I would second that motion.
So the removal is for one shed or 2 sheds?
2 sheds.
2 sheds and a deck. Yeah, they said that.
I thought that only one shed was.
No, there were 2 sheds.
No, there were 2 sheds, but I thought only one was, yeah.
You'll check it? I check it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Cases 28 and 29, 2023. Ariella Wolkowitz. Variance side yard, maintaining seating and attached dwelling is lower than 8 foot high by the pool enclosure forward of the dwelling on East Rockaway Road. And located within the clear site triangle and the driveway, which will substantially obstruct the line of sight. Demolish existing property located on 164 East Rockaway Road in Hewlett. Any discussion? I think there was plenty of discussion.
I'm against the fence being forward house at all, unless she has priority for that.
Yes, I looked at this, there was a previous grant in 1967 for the pool in the side yard, right, this is the actual side yard, not the corner primary side yard, nonsense. A 5-foot picket, wooden fence, stockade fence it was called, and that was permitted. It was forward to the dwelling, it was not on the property. So she's priorly flagged in 67, as well as a shed that's in that side yard, also forward to the dwelling, she got a leak for 22. So those are, yeah.
But I'm of the opinion, and I'm not of the feel that I only want the shed forward the dwelling to the extent it's already approved. I don't want to move it further into the property. That's my opinion.
How far off the property line you want to the fence? And it's an 8-foot fence?
No, I only agree to it's a quarter property. In my opinion, is 5-foot fence wherever it was previously approved, or unless it was previously approved as a 6.
Yeah, I think it was 5, right?
5 fence was previously approved, stockade.
That's, I think,
I'm of the opinion of not granting any further relief to the fence.
I think it's a practical matter to grant the AC units and deny the 8-foot fence. The previous grants were pulled, so they were allowed to put it exactly where it is, including the shed where it previously
It's not where it is. She has it.
Well, all she'd have to leave for is where it was previously granted, and there's nothing for the shed here.
If we're in agreement, someone can make that motion.
Someone make that motion.
Go ahead, John.
I move case 28 of 2023 to maintain air conditioning unit attached to dwelling be granted, and with respect to 29 of 2003, that should be denied.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Kim?
I said aye.
No. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next up is cases 30 of 23, 31 of 23, Suzanne Badania and Armand Bocanet. Variance letter occupied, maintain addition attached to dwelling. Variance letter occupied, maintain deck and stairs attached to dwelling. Southside Washington Avenue, 153 feet west of Jennifer Avenue, known as 550 Washington Avenue, in West Hempstead. Any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I move case 30, 23, 31, 23, West Hempstead, Suzanne, and Armand Boganet at 550 Washington Avenue, Beaver Justice.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Case 32 of 2023, near Valley Street. Farzana Ahmad, variance side yard, maintained with cellar entrance attached to dwelling. North side of Marlow Road, 168.14 feet west of Arkansas Drive. Also known as 17 Marlow Road. Any discussion?
I wasn't too keen on it. I would like counsel to hate to always give you work. The testimony was, and the cellar entrance seemed to have been put in 2006, about there. Then in 2007, they asked for a mother-daughter. And then in 2008, I can't tell what happened about the mother-daughter, but then the testimony is it was abandoned. And then we have this current thing that I can't see the request. I can't even see the permit request to put that kitchen in, but the plans show the kitchen was relocated. When I asked where the old kitchen was, we don't know. The representative hasn't been in the house. I'd like to know what happened. Presumably they put the cellar in 06, 07. He testifies that. Around the same time, they asked for mother-daughter. Often those requests come when the kitchen's already in the second kitchen. And then whatever happened to that, I don't know. I'd like to know. And I see no application to take out a kitchen. So if one was in at the time, if it was maintained kitchen on a daughter, we should have seen some removal of that second kitchen. And so I really think we need more information before we deliberate this case.
I looked briefly into this, and there was a load request in 07. As far as the basement, there was a finished basement request back in, I think it was 11, which stalled because they needed a plumbing permit for the finishing of the bathroom in the basement, and then after that there was no action.
And the bathroom's in the basement?
Yes, apparently in 2016 there was a plumbing permit approved in 2016. That's the last time that anything has happened on this until they legalized this. It looks like they tried to get it about a decade ago, a little over, and now after the plumbing permit they're trying to legalize everything. I'll put it all in a write-up, I'll send them emails so you guys can.
And they added that kitchen, he says they added the kitchen in 2018. I can see by the plans, it was an add-on.
If they did, it's not about records.
I know, I went through the paperwork, and I couldn't find any comments or application for that kitchen. And it says kitchen relocated there, and he said, I think he said that we added that in 2018. We have no documents showing that was legally added, and I'm still back to where's the other kitchen?
Wasn't that
No, kitchen. It was the alteration.
Simply a
cellar
sidewalk
entrance
and
The rear addition.
The rear addition didn't trigger any variances.
Wait, there was a rear addition? Well, that's probably the kitchen.
That's the one that...
No, but he said it was in 2018. Yep.
Mrs. Devon, since the only thing in front of us is the cellar entrance, I move that we deny the cellar entrance.
Okay.
I mean, it's a maintain, but let them take it out.
I'd just like to see where the kitchens are. Is that
You made a motion?
I move that 32 of 2023, variance side yard to maintain a cellar entrance attached to the dwelling be denied.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Case 33 of 23, Anthony Castellano. Variances, height, front yard, setback on total court, two-story addition, second-story addition, permanent patio, vestibule, will attached to dwelling. That case has been adjourned to February 1st at 9:30 a.m. Next case is 34 of 2023, Levittown, Daniel G.V. Restaurant, Inc., Way Wall Street parking, proposed restaurant portion of the existing building, northeast corner of Hempstead Turnpike and Division Avenue, known as 2949 Hempstead Turnpike. Do I have, is there any discussion?
There was certainly lots of municipal parking and that's where the whole strip was developed. I moved that case 34 of 2023, Den G.V. Restaurant Inc. at 2949 Hempstead Turnpike, be granted as requested.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
The only thing on the reserve calendar I want to bring up is the cases 836 and 837 and 22 near Freeport, Oak Street Developers LLC. I have more of a copy of a draft grant. In that draft grant, it goes over the procedural posture of the previous case, how it relates to this case, and how the crux of our previous decision was based on the 4,500 lots. There's also a law, some findings after that discusses not only were we not arbitrary and capricious in our previous findings as the court found, but also we rely on our own internal precedent and that any Article 78 that would be filed on this should be followed under administrative procedure.
Sounds good to me, Judge.
Are there anything on the reserve calendar that we did not do?
Adopted the denial.
Do we adopt it tonight?
You'd be adopted the draft.
Adopt the draft.
Go ahead.
We don't have to submit the NCPC because we denied. This is, you and I, if I was 50 years younger, you'd make 50 Mr. Dano?
Yes.
I move that case number 836, 837 of 2022 at the Freeport Oak Street Developers LLC, and the same as 837, that we adopt the draft denial.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm still holding this one. How much do you ask? Yeah, there's two buttons. And that's all I have for something.
Yes.
On the reserve, there's another one that we're going to inspect, that one in America, the one in America.
Okay. 791 and 792. I went to inspect that property on New Year's Day, which was a total joy. I believe the request was to put a 6-foot fence on above or on the deck, concrete deck.
Is this the one in the rear yard?
This is the one where there's the canopy.
I actually did hear from the opposition on this one. Their requests were that the fence be as tall as you guys are comfortable making it. And the second one was that if we could agree to make them cut back their patio by 3 feet off the property line. And they also said,
what's the rationale by having to cut back the patio?
for privacy concerns, they said that right now they are on top of that and they.
I would give them, as you suggested, as tall a fence as we could possibly get.
So is it no less than 8 feet?
But it's got to be on top. Now they're going to lose some land because that patio is set back from the property. It's set back from the property. The applicant is going to lose some property. Well, unless they keep access to, there's a 2-foot distance between the edge of the patio and the property line.
Oh, you mean by installing the fence, it's going to take up that 2 feet?
Unless they keep a door open or something.
Is there currently a fence on the property?
There is.
Is that the applicant's or the neighbor's?
It had a good side facing, I don't know. It had a good side facing the applicant.
So maybe the applicant just replaces that fence with a
Wait. The application was to add, to put the fence on top of the 30-inch pad, correct?
Yes.
But if they leave the neighbor's fence there, and the applicant maintains that,
There's no maintenance.
Yeah, but does the neighbor have the adverse possession?
It comes to no man's land if they leave the fence. If they take the fence down, there's a possibility that 10 years down the road, unless you put a gate in the fence.
When they're not going to put a gate in the fence.
So,
Well, they put a gate in the
fence, that's okay, right?
No man's land is fine as long as the other side doesn't have, as long as the opposition does not have access to that land.
Oh, I see.
Can I just say?
They asked for it. I mean,
Can I just
asked for
say?
it.
I think they asked for the front of the fence on the patio just to make the fence 7'2". What if we just granted them the right for an 8-foot fence, either on the patio or replacing their old fence? We don't create a no man's land.
Should we concern ourselves with the I don't think we should. The applicant asked for this. I give him a 6-foot, I give him an 8-foot fence.
That's what I'm saying, 8-foot fence.
Exactly where we want to put it.
So no less than this.
Oh, it's horrible. And the applicant told me that what the opposition does, no, this was...
In the hearing.
Okay, in the hearing. The applicant told me to check the record. Never mind, I'll withdraw that parenthetical comment. That is about to make.
Okay, so is there a motion to
I will make a motion.
I can make it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion as it relates to case 791-2022, 792-2022. Merrick, Seth, and Kara Klein. The request to install a fence on top of a 26-inch raised concrete patio. Lot area occupied, side yard, aggregate, rear yard, and to maintain the raised concrete patio attached to the dwelling, affecting the property at 1785 Park Avenue, that the board approve a fence on top of the patio up to 8 feet tall, and all other variances requested.
Good side facing.
Good side facing.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is anybody going to what's that?
843 to 844.
Did anybody want to look at that? That's the Garden City Hotel, not the Garden City Hotel.
The hotel in
The hotel in Garden City, on the border.
I looked at it many times through memory, and I've read this so I don't think it's necessarily a good application. I guess we're going to wait for the planning commission to help us out with it.
Oh, that's right, the hotel.
What say you, council?
We're still, we haven't spoken with Marty Katz on this. They were reviewing the parking and traffic study anyway, so it would be my recommendation to hold this until we get their
This is the
determination.
one where they want to take away the bus stop.
Yep.
Yeah, that's.
Change the flow of traffic.
That also had a peculiar secret that went along with it.
Yes.
Now, depending on what the board's position is on the grant of denial, we may or may not have to follow through with the secret.
I had to look into that as to how the actual relief being requested applies to the environmental impacts.
Right.
So it's just balance.
I can't keep up with
You guys had fun. I was bored. I was really bored for like 2 weeks before Christmas. I couldn't believe it. No one saw us.
They're
That's
afraid.
right. Just to explain this, we don't need to. That extension of time applies to Jarvis Capital Group Incorporated. This is an extension of time that was requested by Jimmy Villardi. It was approved back in 2015. What happened was their excuse is due to COVID. They say the site plan is exactly identical and that should not require a hearing despite the expiration of the extension of time. To the discretion of the board.
Wait, okay, this grant was in the year 15.
Correct.
And this is the first request for an extension of time?
Yep. We met with other people regarding this, but specifically they said that it was COVID-19 related, that they were unable to, and they don't believe that a rehearing would be financially prudent because it would be a repetition of the previous one.
But wait.
It was COVID 15,
But-
16, 17.
No, but there is a point in time which we're not even allowed here extension time, right?
I believe it's
Didn't that
discretionary,
pass?
we don't disagree on this, however, you guys have power. So motion to deny.
I have no idea. I gotta use the restroom.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, there might be change of circumstances, also in the area of character. It could be a lot of, new testimony. Maybe new people moved in and now there's new objections to it.
Oh, that's what I was.
Just such a long.
That was a project call.
For extension time, no, extension time is not going to be unanimous. No, the hearing's going to be unanimous with that company, but this is an extension time request in previous grant.
Right.
So his next relief would be requesting the hearing under the same facts. And that
How
requires
long would that take?
It's faster than reapplying with the building department. I probably say 6 to 10 months, depending on how busy we are downstairs.
For what?
For if a hearing is granted, where they would be, because right now we're still scheduling just after October last year.
Yeah, we're almost done.
We're almost over October of last year, so we still have to get through November, December, and anything that's going to go on after that. So we would
Probably
probably
go back to May. Is that fair?
Yeah, but the problem is looking at.
I don't think it should be rude.
Okay. So with respect to case 14, BZA number 148, Jarvis Capital Group, Inc., permit issued in 2015 to construct. Grant was 4/15 of 2015.
Just read that again. I apologize.
That letter.
There is a letter.
There's a right there.
Cool. Chairman Weiss, oh, well, that's none of that. Town Hempstead was initially approved on April 15, 2014. However, the approval was extended to May 23, 2019. On October 20, 2020, I submitted a letter enclosed requesting an extension of the BZA. However, at that time, the board held the view that the rehearing should be required. I respectfully request at this time that the BZA reaffirm the approval of the above captioned case by administrator review. Such action simply relieves the applicant of the undue financial hardship of filing a new application.
That's a hearing.
He said that the board gave him a rehearing.
Okay.
And he didn't. We told him it. However, at that time, in October 2020, the board held. However, at that time, the board held the view that a rehearing should be required. It's the same thing now. All design elements, etc. Was granted unanimously. Anybody have any input? I guess I'll get solicit that. You can't make a motion, but you can certainly input. If you do, speak.
Is this a case where they shrunk the house?
No. It's a separate case.
Case for maintenance.
And what was the issue? What was the request for
The variance.
Yeah, this is Johnson.
Subdivision of lot. It's in Valley Street, Central Avenue. Jarvis Capital Group. Subdivision of lot area, front width from on the street line to the front setback line. Lot area occupied, rear yard, construct 3-story dwelling with garage.
3-story.
I mean, I just think so much time has passed, we should probably just maybe have to come back and please.
I will.
Interesting. October 7th, 2020. October 7th, 2020, the board, on resolution of Pellegrini, second by Regano, resolved that a rehearing is granted. He didn't follow through with that.
I feel like it's a way to go when the time has lapsed, that we actually need to check the character of the neighborhood, if it's consistent with that which she was, and we approved it, and, just get an agreed on the proposal. And,
He already has a rehearing granted, it would just, this isn't going to be such a fun.
Right.
We go that way.
I mean,
Is a rehearing scheduled?
It's over 2 years that he had it.
Is he pursuing the completion of the project to get a rehearing? We need to put a mechanism in place that
If COVID was to have an effect on it, which it didn't, because it's just trailing through exactly the same paperwork. It didn't bar him from coming in here or doing even a video of what we were doing.
we need a regular mechanism. So if your grant expires and you come in and get a rehearing, you get a rehearing granted whether you come in or not, there should be a way that the office people go, oh, okay. It should be extinguished from the renewal scenario. In other words, is that somehow the renewal came up and he asked for the renewal. Meantime, it should have been taken out of the renewal.
He was asking for an extension of the 2015 grant. He got the renewal. We made him
the
do
extension,
renewal.
but somehow it should have been taken out of the extension bucket. Once you get a rehearing, it shouldn't even be in that queue. Or I don't know. There should be a check and balance in papers.
It probably wasn't in the queue. It just dropped the ball.
He just didn't get it. And our staff is really going to follow up so many times.
But he knew that he got a rehearing. So why would he ask for an extension in time on the prior grant when he's already?
Because he gets such a time the prior grant doesn't submit the paperwork to these yet.
I understand.
It's basically just updating paperwork. It's not a big deal. New list of names and addresses and update the release time.
And how soon could we hear that? Is that going to be a 6 month delay, 9 month delay?
I know when he's scheduling out.
But if we gave him an extension of time, he would be coming back for a rehearing, right?
Correct.
It would be
That's what I'm
extended.
saying. So like, once you get a rehearing grant, it should not be in the bucket where you can go, oh, can I have an extension of time on this pending matter? It's not pending anymore, it's rehearing. It's in that bucket. It would be an office procedure.
Office procedure, yeah. I don't think you separate rehearings, put them in a different lineup than a regular case coming down.
No, the back's still back a lot. So we just made
I just made the children out of the things that we can request the extension of time. That would be a big deal. So now is our rehearing grant still valid?
There's not an expiration on the rehearing or reopening of the matter.
Okay.
I thought he has like 60 days to perfect it.
Perfect rehearing?
Yeah.
That we haven't had a single proper perfected rehearing.
We'll look at it. I think
I'll take a peek at it. Yeah, because no, it's that section 267-812 is rehearing. So I'll take a look at that and see if there's a section. We'll hold it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Let me know more clarity as to what's going on with the rehearing, because I do not recall. So
I think that's what it used to be. But
all right, that's all I have today.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Majority. Aye. Nice to be back.
I'm following your own.
Nice to be back. We're up next week. Who's going to be chairman of the day next week? You. I'm not sure. No one asked me to do that discussion. Let me get to that discussion. I was told that you chair.
It's not, that's it, go ahead. My job now, Mr. Chair.
Quite honestly, I'm happy you were here. It's fuck, I went nuts.
Tony said,